tiny suburbia.
Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 9th of March, 2025. I'm your host, Anne Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
The finale of whatever season this is, I've forgotten.
And Robert Kemp.
15.
I thought that's what it was, but I wasn't 100% certain.
Saladcast is 15 years complete.
Achievement unlocked.
Done this for too long.
Yeah, 15 years officially too long.
Nah.
We're just getting started.
Maybe if we manage to keep this up for like 80 from when we started, then that might be considered too long.
Well, I think maybe it's like if you go...
Especially if it's still us doing it.
Sure. I mean, I think if we go past 50% of the time we've been alive, maybe...
Yeah.
We'll gradually catch up to that.
Yeah, I guess there will be a point, I suppose, where that happens. When will that happen? I guess when we're 50? Yeah, 50. Exactly when we turn 50, in fact.
50.
Yeah. Look forward to 10 more years. I'm ready. Are you ready? I'm ready.
You're more ready than me and Dan currently.
Slightly more. What happened this week?
I got old.
You got old. Wow, you officially reached old.
Yeah. Well, estimated
By having a child.
That happened a while ago.
Yeah, you were slightly ahead of.
I guess 40 is the 50% life expectancy point.
Well, more than more than 50%.
Great
for males.
Great.
Is that true? What's the current?
Is it like 70 or something?
I think it's like
it's
76 for men, isn't it? And then like 78 for women.
Well, happy days. Although I suppose I could discount the first 10 years, or 5 years at least, because I couldn't video game during those first 5 years.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. I mean, this is a podcast about video games. Of course it is.
Really.
I definitely don't remember anything in the first two, so they don't count.
Yeah,
but
the things you remember that count.
Well, that's the thing that occasionally comes to my mind when thinking about ancient memories. Is like, do you even remember any of those memories actually? Like, how much of that shit is just made up at this point?
Yeah,
because you don't actually remember things correctly.
Sure.
Are you remembering things? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's like I have like the memories that I have from before I moved to Needham, like which would have been like year 1 and 2 of school. Like, can any of those be trusted? I don't think they can.
There's definitely a few from that time period where I think I can. And there's one memory I know I have from being 2 that I have confirmed with Mum. And she's like, yeah, no, that happened. That's a thing.
That was a thing that happened.
I guess there is one.
There's definitely some stuff from being 4 I remember as well.
I guess there is one specific thing that I definitely remember from when I lived in Ipswich, which was when my sister cracked her skull on the fireplace.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which obviously that's why you would remember that.
Yeah. Traumatizing.
But how old would she have been?
Well, yeah, exactly. Younger than me.
Yeah.
We were playing around in the living room.
That time Kippers ran into a wall.
That seems like an unspecific enough memory.
Yeah.
Could have happened at any time. Could have happened last year.
My brother fell down the stairs and broke his collarbone in a friend's house. Yeah. He fell and then into one of those gates, right? So the gates were there.
Yeah, right.
Evidently, maybe the top one was open or something.
Did it make it better or worse? Is the question. Like, did it
don't know. Probably worse.
Well, maybe better.
Maybe it's less of a head injury.
Yeah,
possibly.
you get less. You have less rotational energy from hitting the gate, which is vertical, rather than the floor, which is horizontal.
Yeah.
And then I guess similarly, the other memory that probably I'm not entirely sure when this one happened, because it happened in a place in Ipswich, but I don't know whether this was when I was still living in Ipswich. But like, the time I broke my arm, also equally traumatic.
Oh man!
Although that one is a classic tale of bad safety for the sports centre I was at.
Wow!
Because this was, you know,
it's like
the 80s or whatever.
Yeah, it was like late 80s, right early 90s.
Yes.
Right?
Because it was like, here, I have these children come and do some sports things at the leisure centre or whatever. And one of the things they were doing was shooting basketball hoops. But because this was terrible in terms of safety, they were like, oh, well, we can only lower the basketball hoops so much, and it's a little bit high for these children. So obviously we're going to have them stand on a chair.
Oh, no.
But then the thing about standing on a chair is...
slipped.
Well, no, you were standing on a chair, and then it was like, the shot angle seems a bit dodgy. I'm going to take a step backwards.
Oh, no. And then you just...
And then because it was a chair with a back, I like stepped into the back of the chair and just like tilted straight onto the floor.
Wow.
Oh, dude.
That's a...
That was some idiot running that
Yeah,
class.
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Real good safety measures there.
Yeah. And no one was just standing there.
No, of course not.
Oh, dear.
No crash mat or anything. They didn't even speculate on the possibility of that happening.
Yeah. You couldn't put the chair on the crash mat, but you could at least back
Put it
up
forward in front
onto
of it, yes.
Oh, well, maybe that would have helped anyway, just to stop some slipping in one direction anyway.
Sure.
I don't think the chairs were a good idea, whatever
Well,
you
no.
do.
I mean, you could have had one of those like long benches that you have in sports.
Oh,
Or
sure. Yeah, those are considerably
places.
more stable.
And also, no back, so you just fall off more directly.
Well, yeah, probably just as much head injury possibility.
Well, it's because of the way that you can't, like, the actual back of the chair stops you from angling yourself as easily towards the floor,
You
which is why I
sort of flipped and been going face first, and then
I was going
then,
backwards, but then because that like threw my arm back with me, so as I hit the floor, the arm hit the floor, and that's what broke it.
Yeah. Ouch.
Yep, that was a great one.
So what we've proven is
You only remember things with critical injuries.
yeah, the easiest memory is trauma, whether it be your own or someone else.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Now we know.
Yep.
a happy way to begin the end of 15 years.
Well, you know, now we get all the injuries from being old instead. Break your hip.
You've been just waking up injured for years now.
Sure. Is that because I'm
true.
old or because I'm horribly unfit? Who knows?
I mean, probably that probably doesn't help.
Probably the sedentary lifestyle, I think, yeah.
But then I've had a crick in my neck for like all of this week. Like I don't know what it was like. I think it was
after your.
I think it was after last Sunday, like and Monday morning. I just wake up with a crick in my neck, like not being able to turn my head like down and to the left particularly comfortably.
Because you fall asleep on the couch while we're watching shit on YouTube.
Well, mostly the football. Like, yeah, there's like I don't know what it is about football highlights. It's like I am interested in them, but for some reason, highlights of like when I'm watching a match. I'm a bit more into it than when we're just watching the highlights on Match of the Day or something.
What you should actually do is not fucking lie down.
Yes, that is
sit up correctly.
That is very much true. Yeah, and the lying down does like it's because my leg like at that time of the night my legs get a bit antsy, and so if, like actually lying down stops them from being so antsy for some reason. If I'm sat up, I need to like bounce them and be annoying, and like they don't quite find a comfort place. And it's, so then I lay down and then I get a bit excessively sleepy.
You can be annoyed with your legs because when we're watching football, Gnome's not there to be annoyed by it.
That is true.
I won't even notice, probably.
I mean, I'm bouncing them right now because I'm thinking about it.
Sure.
But she did say the other day, it's like, yeah, since you started running and since you've been running and being a little bit more active, like you don't bounce them nearly as much.
Because they're exhausting.
Although they're bloody achy today for some reason. Like, okay, I had a reasonably good run yesterday, but it wasn't very long. You know, just another 5K. And like today, they still ache. And like, now I feel like the urge to just bounce them. Just keep bouncing.
Does that help with the aching? Bouncing?
I don't know. Does mean like I am conscious when I'm bouncing them of like, okay, maybe bits of my headphones are going to start jiggling on and pick up on the audio recording, like as they shuffle on my head slightly. Or,
probably not.
That's what's going on if you can hear shuffle, 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 shuffle. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. I did go out for some bloody nice food. That's what happened.
Oh, yeah. What did you...
I had a proper, like, Master Chef-y style.
Ooh. Fine dining.
Yeah. Went to a place called the Unruly Pig, which is like considered one of the best gastro pubs in the country. Multi-award winning. And they make a big deal. It's one of those places they make a big deal of it. As you walk in the door, there's like pictures of chefs on the wall and celebrities. For some reason, there's a big picture of Johnny Rotten. I'm not quite sure what that's about. I don't know if he's been there.
Somewhat of a celebrity, I suppose.
Yeah. But yeah, they
butter.
but they had like a taster menu on because they've been in business 10 years, and so they're not trying to diminish the event.
They're less old than this podcast.
Yeah, but it was a bit cheaper than normal, so that's fine. It was nice. But yeah, it was like 7 courses, and all of them presented in that kind of very chefy way, where it's like, okay, you've got the main thing in the middle, but it's then surrounded by about 20 other different things and 5 sauces, all in tiny, smidgy, swishy amounts. Yes, jus and compotes and gravies all at once.
All over the plate, yeah.
Tiny bits of walnut for some reason, that kind of thing. Yeah. Like wrapped in 4 different types of ham all at once. But
not just 4 layers.
Not just 4 layers, but 4 different. Yeah, like
different type of ham.
Like this rabbit thing. I think I want to call it a bouillatine, if I remember or bulletine, however it was. I think that's what it was called on the menu. I don't know. I didn't understand half the words I was reading, to be fair.
Sounds French.
But yeah, even when they describe it, was one of those restaurants where the waiters tell you exactly what's in it, like every little detail and exactly how it's. And they're talking about this rabbit thing is like it's been cooked and heated 3 ways, and I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, what 3 ways? What does that even mean?
Above,
like,
from below, from the side.
And it's wrapped in ham, but it's served with crispy bits of ham. And there's these are sauces that by the time you get around to dipping your thing, and it's like, I don't even remember what you said. I don't know what that is. But
spam, egg, and
spam. But it's bloody lovely. There was some of the best food I've ever eaten.
Amazing.
At this thing. But yeah, desserts perhaps. I'm not much of a dessert guy, so that was probably like the least exciting or least interesting part of it for me. But everything leading up to the 2 dessert courses, absolutely gorgeous. Can't do it very often though. It was
no special occasion.
Yeah, exactly.
Switching into old mode.
Switching to old mode. Let's fine dine.
Yeah,
that's one of the things Gnome does want to do at some point. Is like at least once in our lives go to a Michelin-starred restaurant or something, and do that because we've never done that before. We've done really, really fancy restaurants before, but
Michelin-star. Yeah, I've never done that either.
No, but we'll do that one time. Like before this, I think like having dinner in the Park Hyatt Hotel Tokyo was possibly the fanciest thing we'd done. And
is that the one from Lost in Translation?
Yes, it is. And it was a lot more expensive than this, I'll tell you that. But but that also was bloody lovely. With jazz and live jazz in the back.
Like in Lost in Translation.
Like in Lost in Translation, yep. I had an espresso martini with one singular massive ice cube in it.
Nice. You didn't stay in that hotel, did you?
Yeah, we stayed.
Oh, you stayed there?
Yeah.
Sweet.
It was pretty swish.
I need to do that. That needs to be my 40th thing. Go and stay in that hotel.
Yeah, it was really, really good. Recommend. Recommend. Not cheap, but recommend.
No, well.
Yeah, again, that was our sort of honeymoon treat thing while we're out there. We'd stayed in quite a lot of nice places, in fairness, but that was our final hurrah kind of thing. Good one to end on. Good steak.
Wagyu. Well, that was a question.
I honestly can't remember. I don't know if it would be Wagyu or maybe Kobe. Not sure.
Oh yeah.
But, can't really remember that much detail. But I just remember it being very tasty and cooked in front of you, kinda, because you could. It was one of those places where the kitchen is they like a lot of places have like an island layout, right, where it's like there's a central area where the bar is, and mainly because that's how old pubs are sort of designed in this country, right? There's a lot of the eating areas around the outside of where all the kitchen action is. No, and then Park Hyatt, that kitchen area was literally an island just in the middle of the place,
right?
And
so they were all cooking in the middle.
It was just open.
That's cool.
And, it was really, really cool.
Must have been a real pain in the ass when COVID happened.
Oh yeah, I bet you probably couldn't do anything there.
But that means you can't have the Gordon Ramsay-esque chef swearing at you.
No, that's true.
The bear situation. Yeah, you have to look calm.
Yeah, no one shouted hands.
Behind.
Yeah, corner. Yes, that's what my week's been. I've also pulled the trigger.
No good.
On did you get a graphics card?
Yes. So
Yay.
I did eventually manage to bag a 5070 Ti.
Nice.
At
Nice.
a semi-reasonable price, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Not ideal price point still. And
so going back to the reviews, it's like the 5070 is bad, right? And the Ti is good.
Correct.
Is that right?
The 5070, it's still people say it's bad because it's only really a very, very marginal improvement over the last generation card. And
plus AI
upscaling
stuff.
Yeah. And its ability to do DLSS 4 isn't as impact. It doesn't cost as much for it to run DLSS 4 as it does on previous gen cards. I think that was the Digital Foundry takeaway anyway. But yeah, for the money, it's not a great card. Is the problem with the 5070? In fairness, for the money of a 5070 Ti, it's still not great value. But there's slim pickings out there. At least there was. I very nearly swapped to Team Red because
that 90 reviews.
Yeah, that 9070 XT seems like a pretty good card.
Yeah.
I was very much tossing up between, and it's at a pretty good price. I should point out,
that's the key.
The 9070 and stock hasn't been so much of an issue, as well. So they've done the rollout has been much smoother, much more normal, I suppose, for a graphics card launch. As much as that is normal these days, but I saw a 5070 Ti come up. And I was just like, I know what I'm getting into with this. I know it's more money. I know it's not a good price, but also I know exactly what I'm getting with it because I've just not had a Radeon. Right? I guess we've all been used to RDNA devices, right? In your PlayStation, in my Xbox, in the Steam Deck, right? That's all AMD stuff. It is actually friggin' everywhere. The only thing that sort of held me back, I think, from pulling the trigger on the AMD side was. Maybe NVENC is a bonus I want to keep. Maybe some of the AI stuff is something I do want to toy with at some point, even just not for any serious reason, just because image generation is fun, right? There's a bit of me that kind of wants to build a model just with us in it and no one else, so every face is us. That's just kind of funny.
I mean, that's a deep fake, not an image gen.
But it's a AI, right?
Sure.
Still need to drive it. Yeah. Still need to build your own models to do that. Sounds like there might be a bit of fun there. But anyway, it was things like that. Little things around the edges that the AMD suite isn't so good. But admittedly, it seems like ray tracing has actually caught up a bit, right? On the AMD side, their ray tracing performance has improved dramatically this generation. So they're nearly as good as the NVIDIA stuff.
Right.
And also their AMD FSR
hard on catching up.
Yeah, I think they are. And also AMD FSR 4 pretty good in terms of being, catching up to DLSS. DLSS 4 still has the win. And I watched the Digital Foundry breakdown on that, and I do agree with their analysis there. I think DLSS 4 transform model, as it's called, is a better image reconstruction technique. But FSR 4 is pretty good compared to what it was before. And if you care, which I don't, AMD's frame gen isn't very good, which explains what I saw with Immortals of Avium when I played that, right? Because that had FSR3 frame gen as one of its options on console,
right?
And I thought it sucked. So it wasn't just me. It wasn't just that implementation. It's just AMD's frame gen isn't very good. If you care, which I don't. So yeah, we'll see. It's a week and a bit away. That's the other thing. It's like the delivery isn't instant, and so it's I don't know. There's still perhaps I won't get it. There's still that.
What about all the other parts?
All the other parts are said to be confirmed apart from the motherboard.
Right, the one part you definitely need.
Yeah, that part for some reason, that and the graphics card for some reason haven't progressed past the first step. I'm buying through eBuyer,
right,
and so you can sort of see some of this detail, but those two bits haven't progressed past the first step.
Are they going to wait for it all to get packaged into one package, or is it coming?
I think so, but I didn't buy absolutely everything through eBuyer.
Right,
so there is one component on my desk right now, which is the RAM, which was a bit cheaper to get from Amazon. So yeah, got some fancy, and I haven't actually upgraded the size of RAM this time because I've been running 32 gigs in this machine for 9 years,
right,
and it's consistently been far too much. And
now it will be faster as well.
And so yeah, just sticking to 32 gigs, but a faster quantity of it will be fine for me. Even though the video editing side benefits from RAM, DaVinci actually doesn't seem to be too RAM hungry for the type of content we make. So,
I really wish that. I mean, we've said this before about every video editing software that we've used so far. It's like
use my RAM. Yeah.
Why do they not give you more options to like force that, or even just tell you what's going on?
I think Resolve does have like a percentage limit inside it. Like it tries to, like in theory, it should at max use about 80% of your system RAM, right? Like, or aim for that. And I think it is configurable somewhere how much it's allowed to use, but in my experience, it's just never even scrapes the barrel, which is a bit frustrating because there's plenty of it to spare when we're doing our video content. It's not like our video content is very complex. No. It's not a heavy edit. So it's I mean, sometimes there's a little extra effects channel going on to like blur the edges and stuff like that around content that doesn't 100% fit the frame. Still not heavy load. And I would just use the RAM, guys. Like build your proxies as I go a bit quicker. You can do that. Go nuts. Anyway. So we'll see what happens. I'm pretty excited.
What have you done about the case?
I have gone for a North XL.
Yay.
Just because it looks so pretty. Come on.
It looks so nice.
It looks so pretty. I was after the tempered glass one, not the mesh one. However, you can't get the tempered glass at the moment. And everyone was saying like it's not going to be delivered for possibly 6 months.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's like, okay, I'll just have the mesh then.
Just get the mesh, yeah. I kind of wanted to get the mesh because I have this problem that I want to vent out the side or whatever. I don't want to vent out the top. I have this weird.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, but I don't know. Anyway, I don't.
I mean, I'm going to vent out the top because I'm for the first time I'm going to get a water cooler, an AIO cooler.
Yeah,
this time. Yeah. So it's it will be venting out the top.
I think that's the normal way. I just put stuff on top of my computer. So
I mean, I could do it differently and have it so it vents out the front in the North XL case design. So I could put my cooler there and vent out the front and then add some side fans to intake through the mesh.
Yeah, that's the advantage of the mesh, obviously over glass.
Yeah, I mean the North is incredibly flexible in terms of where you can mount stuff and how you can mount it and orient it. The only other, as I say, one of the other components has arrived, and that I ordered a separate Noctua case fan because there's space on the back of the North to just or any of that grill is all designed like with fan spaced grooves in it, so you can just attach a fan there if you want. And it's like it's gonna look sweet. Still, as I say, my biggest headache is just going to be moving to it because I'm going to try and move everything I do to it.
Yeah, That'll be a day or two.
I'm still
Work.
I'm not too worried about the video side. I'm not too worried about even the podcast side and the recording of that. I'm not too worried about how we do that and how I can get up and running on that side of things. That's fine.
It's just the music production side.
The music side, yeah. I am.
Your setup is basically rooted in 90s technology.
It is.
Right?
That install of the OS, I traced back to not just one machine ago, but 2 PCs ago. Like the beef pooter was kind of where it originated, and I've kind of upgraded that whole platform through the years, or that OS copy, and that OS copy has moved with me. But I don't want to do that this time. I want to start clean.
So what are your computer names through the years? ICE was the laptop, wasn't it?
No. There was the
laptop.
The laptop was the mother laptop. Yeah,
right. And the beef pooter.
Then there was beef pooter, and then ice, and now fire. I'm not quite sure what I'll call the next one. Maybe because of the white scheme, it will be something like Tundra or
Tundra.
Ice again.
Yeah, back to icy stuff.
Back to glacially stuff.
Yeah.
Moraine.
Terminal Moraine. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But yeah, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to doing the build.
Yeah, that is exciting. Very cool. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thankful that like modern that I don't have to do anything too complex with the cooler. The water cooler was the bit that was worrying me, because it's like, okay, how do you actually do that? And it's like, no, they just come with the fluid in them.
Yes, it's all pre-sealed or whatever.
It's all yeah. There may be a maintenance problem with coolers, like over time.
Yeah, that is what I've been already thinking about. Yeah, it's like how is this going to gunk up?
How long does it last? Like, because I didn't realize this when I ordered it, but like, okay, so unless you get like a really expensive one, it's like they don't have the ability, they don't have fill ports,
right?
Like to top it up, and of course, permeance and not permeance, is that the right word? Or
permeability, I guess.
Permeability, yeah, like air can get in there, right, and it will eventually lose some of its efficiency because of that. And apparently, you can hear it when it's starting to get really bad.
Well, I mean, you can hear it when it's working perfectly, because it makes a completely different noise to it. Where you can hear the like motor go where it starts pumping.
Right. I assumed the pump would run all the time, but I suppose it gets faster and slower.
Well, I mean, when you first turn the PC on, basically.
Oh, does it? Yeah, so I don't know. That's interesting.
Sweet. Well.
And I'll try and cable manage this thing a little better.
Yeah.
But then I've got the mesh side, so maybe it doesn't matter. There's cables everywhere.
Always nice to know it's all neat, though, on the inside.
Yeah, I've always been terrible at that. Like, yeah. I tried to be better with this thing when I've opened it up, but the cables don't always reach in the way that you want them to. And it's like, well, I could have bought more cables, but I want to use it now.
Yeah.
So I'll just route them wherever the hell they can go.
And then it's done.
Yeah, and then it's done. Then you leave it alone for nearly 10 years. I can't mount as many hard drives as I normally would in this new case. This has been the advantage of this Cooler Master Stormtrooper case. I can mount 1 billion drives in it. And the motherboard that I got last time actually had like so many SATA ports on it. Like it was absolutely filled with them. So I could, and I have been running drives aplenty, but I have an external SATA cable, so I can just plug them in externally if I need any of my old drives. But the plan is to only bring across important ones, and I can upgrade through M2 in future, right? So it's.
Don't even do that. Just make it clean. Make it actually clean.
No, I'm gonna have to bring some drives over, man. I got too much stuff. Got too much stuff. That MAME library's got to live somewhere.
Well, at least only bring data. Don't try and transfer anything that's already like built.
Apps. Yeah, that's a bit trickier. Yeah, everything will be cleanly installed. Maybe the Steam cache. Maybe bring those over.
Well, yeah. Although, again, probably only want the actual game data, not any of the actual like
saves and temp files and stuff like that. But I could probably just re-download and reinstall most of that anyway. So
it's not actually.
That might actually force me to only install the stuff I'm currently playing.
Actually clean up a bit in the process.
'Cause I think I've still got Rocket League installed. It's like, I can't remember the last time I played Counter-Strike. I think I haven't played Counter-Strike since it became Counter-Strike 2.
Yep.
You know, that kind of stuff. I haven't played Valorant in ages.
Get rid of that rootkit in the process.
Well, don't want Vanguard on. What was I running the other day? I actually ran something up the other day that said, "Oh, you're running Vanguard. I don't like that. Please turn it off." I can't remember what that was, but yeah, something actually complained about, like, and looked for Riot Vanguard and said, "Yeah, no, this ain't gonna work." So that was fun. Anyway, yeah, we'll see. Let's hope the delivery gods shine upon me and I get my actual graphics card. Otherwise, I will probably be on Team Red. I probably will get a 9070 XT because getting hold of a 5070 is hard.
So, do you think we'll get an update next podcast? Will it be in place?
Yeah, hopefully should be up and running by next podcast.
Sweet, we'll get the lowdown. Nice.
If I get my music environment up, I'll run some of my toughest workloads through it, and it should just blast through it. Does
that mean we'll actually be recording the podcast on that machine then, in theory?
Hopefully, yeah. New theme tune, new PC, new season comes in with a bang.
Yeah. How's your setup these days, Zach? Is it settled in?
Have you remembered what graphics card you've got?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's developed the first actual problem, although it might not be a problem with the system, it might be a problem with a cable, but I can't actually tell. Because it has along the top of the machine, it has like the extra USB ports and whatnot, like the power button next to all that stuff. But it also has a headphone and microphone jacks up there, which is what I use to plug my headphone in when I'm not using any of the like fancier versions. Because like, okay, so my headphone has that USB sound card essentially that you can use with the headphones to basically make the microphone on that work better, which is what I used originally until I got an actual proper microphone with a stand and everything. And then for that's also essentially another sound card as well, just built into that microphone. And then that microphone has a just headphone jack on the bottom of it. So I take the headphones out of the PC port and plug it into the microphone port, so I get proper feedback and stuff on those. But the headphones, when you're not using their special USB sound card, have the cable that goes from the headphone to the USB sound card is a combined cable, so it's mic and sound.
Right, yeah, like the 4-pole.
Yeah,
3.5 mil.
But then it has, when you're plugging it in without that sound card, it then has a splitter on the end which splits it into the two cables, so you can plug it into a separate headphone and microphone port.
Okay, yeah.
Which is what I do on the top of the PC when I'm just using it for just sound. But it's either the cable is dodgy or those ports are dodgy, but sometimes now it, like, you'll plug it in and it'll work fine, and then just randomly after some time a pop-up will come up and say, "What did you just plug in?" And then the sound will stop working.
Oh, it's got one of those auto-detecting cards.
Yes.
Those have always kind of sucked.
Well,
like, I don't think this PC has ever done that, but ICE before it definitely had one of those Realtek auto detection systems that was occasionally a bit flaky.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like, I can't tell whether it is a problem with the wire, like when I'm moving around, it's jiggling the cable, which is breaking the connection for a second, or whether it's like, it's actually pulling on the port and the port is losing connection, or whether it's like software that's gone dodgy.
Yeah, who's to know? I mean, in my case, it was definitely the Realtek stuff that was... I don't know, that probably doesn't help, but it was definitely the Realtek stuff. The
thing that's really weird about it, which makes me incredibly confused about which one of these problems it is that if you have just the headphone jack plugged in of the splitter, it sometimes thinks you've plugged in a microphone again, even though literally nothing is plugged into that port. So, like, that's got to be software, right? Because there's literally nothing in that port, so it can't be sensing that anything's there.
Maybe. Is that one of those things that you can actually just not run? Are you running the Realtek driver suite or something?
I mean, presumably. It's all pre-installed.
Yeah, because I never installed it on Fire. So I'm just using Windows's
Windows
view on the
should have its own auto-detect on that as well.
Well, it doesn't... does it? Interesting.
I think so,
yeah. Okay. And because I never put any audio software on this build. like at driver level, and it's been fine.
The other option would be, because that splitter is an extension to the cable, I could just like plug the splitter into the back port and it would be long enough that I'd be able to see it. So if I unplug the headphone for when I'm using it the other way, I'd still be able to see that without having to like look around the back of my PC.
Yeah.
I assume it still has regular ports back there. I assume these are just a cloned pair of ports on the upper mount.
Yeah, they are usually a dupe set.
Yeah.
But they are treated as a separate set normally by the card. But then it depends how you plug your speakers in, because that's the problem.
I don't have speakers, that's the thing.
Oh, in which case, yeah.
I'm literally only using the headphones at the moment.
You could probably get a couple of...
It's not like it's a sound card, it's just the motherboard, obviously.
Yeah. Well, if you know what that split cable, what pole 3.5mm it is, you could get a couple of 3.5mm extenders, and maybe that would be more convenient.
Well, I was just thinking, like, I'm going to need to look up to see if I can replace this cable potentially, which, I mean... The trouble is it has the like mute switch on it for the headset and all that. It has that built-in part, so you'd lose that probably, but maybe that'd still be fine. It's not like I use those headphones for that anyway, really, any longer.
Right? Is it like fixed from the headphones to that unit?
No,
and then...
it unplugs at both ends.
Oh, okay. So the whole cable. Okay, but the box doesn't have a breakaway.
The box is on that cable.
Yeah. Okay. It's exactly the opposite on my gaming headset. This HyperX set, like in the where it plugs into the headset is fixed, and that goes to the dongle bit, and that's all sealed.
And then the cable is just a regular cable after that.
Yeah, after the dongle bit, you can plug whatever cable in you want, and that's where it disconnects. So it's still not perfect, right? Like cables break, you kind of want to be able to replace the whole damn thing, but.
I guess it's not like these were super expensive headphones or anything, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's nice about this, my monitor headphones, these Audixes. Whole cable can be replaced. It's jacks at both ends, baby.
Nice.
So this is maybe the second cable fuck up on this PC after my mouse cable was starting to be pulled out or whatever. Still haven't used that backup mouse that I bought. I'm still going with if it works, as long as it works, I'll continue using it plan. I just wrap some electrical tape around the bit where the cable was looking exposed. It's like, that's fine. Old school.
Fine, yeah.
As long as I'm not touching this theoretically more exposed, even though it's still just shielding under the rubber. It's fine.
I need a colour scheme for my new PC.
Well, it depends what you're going to call it. If it's not red for fire or blue for eyes.
Well, it'll be white. Maybe I should just go white this time. Because I've got Razor gear as well with lights on it and stuff. Maybe I just have to make the whole like just nice, just clean white or something.
You'll use all of the colours of LED evenly.
Yep, burn all those LEDs.
Yes, technically my computer's colour scheme is blue, even though it's not really. I mean, Windows colour scheme is blue. I never bothered changing the fan lights, so it still just cycles a rainbow.
Just every colour.
Yep. It just has a cycling, spinning rainbow on it.
I think that would drive me up the wall a little bit, having just a... I know it's I don't have a problem if that's your thing and you want that full RGB animation style. I think I just want a nice, solid colour.
Like, I don't even notice it, even though in my specific case, the PC is on the desk literally at my head height. It's like, you'd think that would make me notice it more, but it's just like out of my peripheral vision, I don't even see it.
I say I want a nice solid colour, but I do put the little sparkly animation on my keyboard for some reason.
Yep. That's the ice.
Yeah.
Or snow, I guess.
Don't know why it goes a bit purple on my mouse. I should probably change that. It's breaking theme.
Yeah.
Keep it all on theme this time. All right, so we're talking about the news.
Shall we do some gaming news?
Because I think you're going to be playing some games on this new PC.
Theoretically.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Maybe there's some related news.
Oh, I finished in non-gaming stuff. I got around to finishing off watching Arcane Season 2. I got around to.
I mean,
I brought
tangentially.
Yeah, tangentially. I brought myself to do that eventually after taking a little break after last time I talked about it. It ends much better than it starts.
Right.
I don't think the first half of that season is particularly great. The back half is slightly slower paced. And that's exactly what it needed. It just needed to slow down a bit. There's still a bunch of stuff where it's just like, oh, and then this happens, and then this happens just because. And I think I just think that's just what this is at this point. It's the unknown, the arcane. It definitely leaves you with a few questions at the end of it. Of like, okay, what was this all about? How does that work? Paradoxes. Why did this character suddenly become important? I don't really know. But in terms of how it's paced and how it feels, at the very least, they get that much better in the back half. In the first half of the season, it's just a shame. As I said before, it's just a shame it doesn't quite carry the weight that the first season managed to put on. Right, That's a terrible way of phrasing that.
You're going to carry that weight.
It got fat from all the praise from season 1, and then couldn't, and it wasn't strong enough to hold all that gut.
Too much gut. That's a problem with Arcane season 2.
Yeah. Still, I'm super excited to see what Fortiche, that studio, does next, because it's not going to be more Arcane, right? They've said that this is the end. So, really want to know what they work on next. Especially because they even call the style that this looks like the Fortiche style. So, like, presumably they're going to carry this on. How this thing looks, because the look is incredible. Although, in fairness, like, some of that, they might run into a bit of trouble there, because that's kind of Riot's look as well, right? They do this a lot with their, like, you know, the game is polygonal and stuff like that, but then they throw in these very cartoony 2D hand animated effects layers.
Yeah, but you can't copyright that specific thing.
No, you can't. But it's maybe it's maybe Riot might have a small problem with that. I don't know, but maybe they just do other Riot projects. I don't know. Maybe other League of Legends, or maybe a Valorant project. I don't know. But it is kind of, do you know what I mean? It's like they've managed to capture Riot's style, to an extent.
What else tangentially related to video games that we watched?
Oh yeah, we should definitely talk about this. Why? Okay, that's probably a bad sign that I forgot we did this. We watched the Super Mario movie finally. Oh, a bit late to the party, but we got, because it turned up on Netflix. We thought
the Mario Party.
I don't think there was a Mario Party reference, was there?
No, I guess not. Unless it was one of the bits of music.
Maybe, yeah.
Which is my major problem with that whole thing, I guess.
I mean, this film is entirely average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not... Gnome actually had big problems with it. Like, she talked to me after it and was like, This is not what I expected. This is just, like, the story is rubbish. She really didn't like it all that much.
It was the hell obvious story, really.
Kinda, yeah. I think the biggest problem with it is that, okay, when you remember when we watched the first Sonic the Hedgehog movie, there was a little bit of me going, it's like, okay, they probably could have done more with tying it to the originals and tying it to the game world and doing that kind of stuff. Super Mario does that, but goes too far. Like, everything is a reference and everything feels like a nod, and if you're not in the loop, like, that, in fairness, and for me, that was the best stuff in the film, actually, some of the times, where it's just like, oh, they did that thing. Yeah, that's cool. Oh, they did that thing. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, nice. I see what they did there. Oh, and there's that sound effect. That's cool. But the problem is like, that's all the film was. And so, like, for me, and it ends up feeling a little bit empty as a result. Yeah. I didn't really care for the plot line. No. I thought Chris Pratt was all right, actually. I kind of grew into that form of Mario. That line from the trailer wasn't even in the film, the one we all hate, where it's like, Mushroom Kingdom, here we come. It's like, it wasn't even in the film. Right. Like, I don't know. I think Jack Black and Bowser is underused, and as a bad guy, it doesn't... it's Bowser. It's as stupid as it normally is. It's like, I want to take over the kingdom to marry Peach. That's the whole thing. But I don't know. It almost doesn't feel Jack Black enough, even with the stupid song and even with the Yeah, I don't know, that small opening segment with the penguin battle is probably the best bit of the whole film. I don't know. I just really like the penguins going, "Do you yield?"
That's all you needed.
Yeah, it's definitely the best bit. Oh no, actually no. The best bit is manic depressive Lumin or whatever that thing is called. Luma. Yeah, that little dude is hilarious.
Totally out of place.
Oh yeah,
in the concept of the entire film.
Completely, but it's the absolute best thing about that film.
I think my major problem is like just the music, basically, where like 80% of the time it's just a continuous medley of every Mario song ever, just mashed randomly together, and then the other 20% of the time it's random 80s pop songs.
Yeah, yeah. The licensed music had a mixed bag effect. There was a couple of times where I think it worked, and a couple of times where it's just like, I don't know why you're doing this.
Well, the first time was the worst, where it's like, am I watching Shrek 2? They use that goddamn song.
Didn't you Smash Mouth? That's
no,
the Shrek
not that
song.
One. The Shrek 2, not Shrek 1.
2. Oh, I Need a Hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did do that, yeah. I Need a Hero. Oh, and they didn't even use the frou-frou version that plays during the Shrek 2 credits. I mean, come on.
Exactly. But yes, I like, the 80s music was weird and the medley was too much, where it's just like, we're just going to mash every single Mario music reference we can in, like, chained together into one long string. Whenever people are not talking, here's some goddamn Mario music references.
And somehow they had to give Mario a family and make them seem like they're teenagers with mustaches but somehow running a plumbing business. That whole setting in Brooklyn is weird and doesn't really work for me.
No.
Like, I love the old Super Mario Bros. Super Show reference that the film starts on. It's like, okay, that's pretty, like, the kids watching this show are no one's gonna get that.
Well, no, that's why it's like, that's why these 80s pop songs are there. It's like, no children are going to understand that. That's only for people who are alive and like playing the video games at that time.
And mild spoilers, many people die in that film. They just don't show it.
Well, sure.
There's a sequence towards the end where it's like, there is no way nobody came out of that unscathed.
Yeah. Totally saved the physical buildings. Maybe.
It's quite a weird film.
Are there any references to the Bob Hoskins film?
You know what? I'm not sure there is. I mean, apart from
it being in Brooklyn and going into the sewers and for a weird, it's not as weird a portal as the Bob Hoskins portal.
No, it's not just like a wobbly bit of rock
space.
Yeah.
And then for some reason,
nobody seemed too worried about the bombs either.
No,
they're only showed in one scene, I think, as well. Like,
I'm fine with them making this movie like for kids or whatever. I didn't expect it to be. I'm not going to watch it. I didn't expect it to be like a Pixar, like the Lego movie is the gold standard, right? Where it like transcends.
Yeah.
But it's great. Kids love it.
The first Lego movie.
Yeah, the first one. I mean. Yeah, but then you need real talent. You need like Lord and Miller to make that, right? And that's Chris Pratt as well. But that's a much more fun movie. And that's why they got him to do Mario, right? Because of the Lego movie.
Oh, and because Shigsy thinks he's so cool.
Yep, he's so cool.
So cool. But I am worried about the doing a Zelda live action. Just don't do it. Just don't make a Zelda film.
I'm so in a weird backwards way. I am so hyped for this because it's bound to be a train wreck in some way, but
not a good idea.
But I love it. I love the risk take of it.
But it's supposed to, presumably the investors think it's a safe bet because the Mario movie made all the money or whatever. So it's like, oh, what? That's the other one. Oh,
it's like if you get the Minions team, or you get if they got Pixar, or if they got Disney Animation to do the Mario film, that sounds obvious, right? To me, and I'm like, okay, I'm sure it would be fine to good at a minimum, but doing a live action Zelda, like the range of how this thing could turn out is wild to me.
I don't think there's any way it could be good. Like,
I want to see that Bokoblin. Come on. And what model of Bokoblin are they going with? Like, what Zelda world are they going with? Like, exactly. Or is it all going to be all new? And like, is it going to be weird and skank because it's all new and because it's live action? Is it like, are they going to have to come up with brand new design? Is it just going to be guys in green?
I mean, we already talked about this before.
It's freaking Tingle turning up.
Yeah, probably. But like, we already talked about it before, where it's just like, because it's live action, what do you do about like, things that aren't humans? What are we talking?
Well, I mean,
we're talking CGI, obviously.
There's a fair amount of humans in Zelda.
Sure,
but they're not really humans, are they? They got spiky ears, elfish. Yeah.
But like, you couldn't have an entire Zelda film and not have any monsters in it.
No.
And I think at least need Ganon, probably.
Yeah, and he'll have to turn into a giant pig monster at least.
Yeah.
I think if they were going to do it, they would lean in, and like, because Nintendo being Nintendo, they would want the design to lean more into their more recent stuff, right? So I get the feeling it would be Breath of the Wild-y.
Sure.
That's where I think they're going to go.
Mario?
I think that's where they're going to go with this. I mean, Mario's a bit like every game is kind of the same. Okay, not every game is the same, but do you know what I mean? Mario has a has a much clearer identity than I think Zelda does.
Yeah. It's interesting because obviously the Mario version they went with for the film now seems to have leaked into Mario Kart with the Donkey Kong or whatever, right?
Yeah. Although I actually really didn't mind Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. I didn't think his writing was particularly great, but I didn't mind Seth Rogen's playing the voice for it. Especially when he did the Seth Rogen laugh. I don't know why. That just actually genuinely made me happy.
Yeah.
I think it actually quite suits.
Right, we better go into actual video game news.
Yep.
So what is going on? Not a particularly exciting couple of weeks, but should we start with the bad news? WB have decided to close more studios. Hooray. This time there's 2 studios taking the chop. We're seeing Player First Games are being dropped. They were responsible for Multiverses, which is somewhat understandable given that actual launch of the game wasn't nearly as successful as the beta launch of the game. Man, I really want to know why they did what they did with Multiverses. It's like they should have just rolled straight from beta into live rather than taking several, nearly a year off? Yeah. It just lost all the momentum that it had because Multiverses came out and people didn't think it was bad. I played it. I thought it was all right. But could have done with a little bit of refining. But it was a beta, so that's fine. They had time to do it. But their approach to it was, no, we're going to take the entire thing offline for a year and then come back and it will be refined. And then when it came back, no one was particularly happy with it either. It seemed to come back with worse business practices because WB, and the game didn't seem improved in meaningful ways. It was doomed to failure, but I think by just them losing momentum. It's it's been proven recently that live service games are a tricky beast to master, and going offline seems to be the absolute worst thing you could possibly do. And they did it. I mean, it was brave. I'll give them credit for taking it offline to make it so they could cook, I suppose. In some ways, that's admirable. In some ways, that's how games should be.
In some ways, that's what a beta actually means.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, in the landscape of live service, it went, then everyone moved on to wanting to play different things. It's just not how you do. Because we're fickle. So there's that. The other studio they shuttered is a bit more confusing, though, to me, and that was Monolith. They have closed Monolith, as in the studio behind Shadow of Mordor, creators of the Nemesis system, patented to WB Games. So
didn't they make No One Lives Forever and stuff like that? Is that Monolith?
Yes, I think they might have done. Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty legendary studio.
Yeah, they used to always have their own engine and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty. It's confusing because they were. It's hard to see where Monolith themselves have gone wrong, right? Like, I don't know that they have a particularly. I don't know that they have a bad game on record.
Did they make Fear and all that? Who made Fear?
Ooh, that might be them as well. Yeah, that might be. That you might be right there. Yeah. Okay, the Fear series started good, and then maybe slid a little downhill in its later entries. But
Sure.
I mean, it was never a huge game. But technology-wise, that first Fear game was fascinating.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one because as I say, I don't think they've put a foot wrong. They haven't had a game for a while, which might be part of it. If they're just looking at the raw numbers, it's like, what has this studio made for us for a while? And it's probably not a lot. They've probably been a support studio on a few things rather than making their own game. Except they were making their own game. They were making this new Wonder Woman game, which has apparently now been cancelled as a result of the studio closure. So maybe, I'd like to hope that someone did their due diligence here and actually went in, looked at the game and thought, nah, that's shit, especially off the back of Suicide Squad, right? And the other DC foibles that have been happening recently. Arkham Knights, anyone? Was that game even called Arkham Knights? That the one that didn't have Batman?
Yeah,
is that Gotham Knights?
Yeah, it was probably
Gotham Knights. Yeah, that's it. That and Suicide Squad not doing particularly well. It's like, did an executive just come in and be like, maybe these DC projects need to go, even though, like in their investor calls and things and like official things, they've been saying like these are the things we're focusing on, and one of the things they're focusing on is DC brackets, especially Batman.
Yeah,
it's just it's a bit strange. A bit brutal.
Maybe Warner Brothers are preparing to lose a lot of money on the Minecraft movie. I don't think so, though.
Are Warner Brothers making that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, obviously, it's like completely separate departments, as always.
Yeah.
With Warner Brothers, there's no real overlap between the films and the games and the music in the Warner Brothers branches.
I assume Warner Brothers are just funding it rather than anything else. Because obviously the game has nothing to do with them.
Well, yeah. I watched the most recent trailer for that as well, and it still looks like a goddamn nightmare.
It was a better trailer, arguably.
Arguably.
Did it have any more yearning for the memes?
It didn't have as much of a quotable meme. I mean, everyone memed the villager getting hit by a car.
Right.
It implies that Jack Black is also the cause of all your problems. Right? He found the Nether, and then everything went to hell. That's what the plot of this film is.
Quite well. Yeah, I guess. I guess he opened the portal. Is the implication that they're making.
He's the real bad guy.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a great twist for the Minecraft movie. It's like Steve is actually the bad guy.
I'd be into that, yeah. But he's like a sympathetic bad guy, so he comes good at the end to save it, right? That seems like how it would go.
Yeah, maybe. Or he would just kick everyone back into the real world. Save them, but not necessarily the world.
Oh, yeah. A sacrificial. Yeah, that's totally how it will be. He's not even going to be a sympathetic bad guy. He's going to be like, I made mistakes. I need to make them good.
He's not going to be a character at all, judging by the trailer.
You reckon he's just there as the tutorial?
Yes, his job seems to be to announce what everything is.
Mr. Exposition, Basil Exposition.
Yeah.
In fairness, if I was making a game and I wanted a narrator...
Joe Black. Well, yes, obviously.
That's a pretty good choice.
It's been done. More than once.
Pretty good. Well, you buy Double Fine. Yeah. Pretty much every game they do at the moment has Jack Black in it somewhere. I mean, that's not even remotely true, but more Jack Black, please. Yeah, I think he's definitely one of those people that I think you could throw him in absolutely anything, and I would appreciate his presence.
I mean,
I can't think of a single thing that Jack Black's been in where I haven't appreciated his presence in it. Even The Jackal, right, which was that assassination film. We played that guy that built that ridiculously big gun for Bruce Willis.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's in
a remake of The Jackal with Bruce Willis. Because there's a new remake of The Jackal, isn't there?
Yeah, not Day of the
Redmayne.
It's not Day of the Jackal. The Jackal is a different thing, although it's adjacent, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the lineage there, but maybe it is the same. Maybe it is the whole. Maybe it is the whole thing. But yeah, anyway, that film was all right. Jack Black's in it for a bit. What's that record shop one that feels that has Jack Black?
High Fidelity.
High Fidelity.
His first role. Right?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Admittedly, I haven't seen Orange. Is he in Orange County? I get the feeling he might be in Orange County. And I don't think I've seen Shallow Hal. Have I seen Shallow Hal? I can't even remember. That might be a less
clearly
good.
The best one is School of Rock. I mean,
well,
can't
yes.
be that.
Shallow Hal's probably the least good Jack Black venture. I can't remember if I've seen it or not, but I would bet money that's the least effective venture.
More like Jumanji.
But Jumanji's all right. Jumanji's pretty good, especially the first of the two new ones. It's pretty good.
What about whatever it's called, Kong Skull Island or whatever, where he's that
oh shit,
tour
is he in
guide guy.
No, he's in King Kong.
King
right?
Kong, that's right.
The Peter Jackson one.
Remake.
I've not seen that. Oh,
I only saw it in the cinema at the time, and it's like really fucking long because it was basically the film that Peter Jackson made after having made Lord of the Rings and being able to do whatever he wanted. So he's like, I'm going to remake my favorite movie from the 1930s and make it as long as I want. And yeah, it's Jack Black. And who's the girl that gets picked up by King Kong? It's
I don't know. I've not seen that thing. I only remember it was heralded as an easy 1,000 achievement points in the early days of the 360.
Oh yeah, there was a movie tie-in game that was probably terrible.
Quite probably.
And potentially that game didn't have Jack Black in.
I mean, it probably didn't, though.
Yeah, School of Rock and, I guess, Brutal Legend. Oh.
He is pretty good in Brutal Legend. It's a weird game, but yeah. Made better by Jack Black. I was treated to the intro for that game turning up on YouTube the other day, just as a thing. Because it's like the very first thing that happens when you boot up that game is you get this like FM, like this video sequence.
Record shop.
Yeah, of him going, they keep the really good stuff in the back. And it's like, no one knows it's here. It's him just finding a copy of Brutal Legend. It's pretty good. In other news, slightly more positive news, Activision announced I think we talked about this last time that there was a tease in Call of Duty about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 being a thing. It didn't explicitly say that that's what it was, but everyone, the 3-4 date was what was, 4th of March for us UK people. That it was hinting directly at it being that. And guess what? It was directly that. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 is a thing. Fully remade, fully rebuilt in the same way that they did for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2, which everyone loves.
Yep, I've got that. It's pretty good.
I've never played that remake. I've been tempted to pick it up many times, but never have. I'm feeling pretty good about this because I played 3. We played 3 quite a bit on the GameCube version, right?
Yeah.
So
I think I probably played 3 the most. I played 2 quite a lot. I played the demo of 2 a lot. I think 3 was the one I had on the GameCube. Yeah. I
think I borrowed Zach's copy for an unholy amount of time back in the day. So I played quite a bit of that.
I think Jeff Gersman gave that like a 10 for GameSpot or whatever.
Sure. Yeah. I can see it. I can see it. So yeah, the first trailer they had showed basically only footage from 3.
Yeah, I was trying to remember all the levels to be like, was any of this from 4?
No, I don't think anything they showed in that trailer was from 4 at all. And it turns out there's probably good reason, because 4 is being effectively reworked into a different game. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, for those that remember, was the one where the game decided to start playing with open world, open worlds,
open
zone. Yeah, let's go with that. Sonic Frontiers is onto something. Open zone gameplay, but the 2-minute runs were effectively gone as a concept, and you would walk up to board up to people, press A, and they would tell you, oh yeah, can you do this? Can you do a sick thingy on that thingy?
Yeah.
You mean a grind on that rail? Yeah, that's what I said. And the whole game was restructured that way. The progression was that. But for Tony Hawk's 3+4, presumably for consistency, I guess, with the formula, they're reworking the areas from 4 into the 2-minute run formula. And for me, I think that's a good thing. The idea of the 2-minute run formula, although in some ways annoying, right? Because it means you have to achieve what you want to achieve in those 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And that. But that was the challenge of those first few games. That was the whole deal. It's like, okay, I'm going to go for this target in this run. I'm not just going to. It's not a collectathon. That's not the point of Tony Hawk's. It kind of is a collectathon, but it's a collectathon and fun in 2 minutes, and you got to do it in that 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Reworking 4 into that is really appealing, really interesting to me. Partly because I never played 4.
Well, it's just because it's basically going to be new levels for free from our perspective.
Yeah, exactly. How could it go wrong? I mean, maybe those areas are a bit
differently shaped.
Yeah, are they possibly too big for this formula?
Will 2 minutes not actually be long enough to be able to get to the different objectives?
I mean, presumably they'll rework the objectives so they fit, but it's like, are the objectives just lifted from the things you would have been doing?
Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and that's it. To me, it makes the game way more fascinating than just a straight remake. They're doing it's something different by not being different.
By being the same as this.
By being the
game.
Same as the previous ones. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but get hype is what I'm saying. Get hype. I'm interested for this. I think I talked about Amped 3 last time on this podcast, but it got me in. Maybe I'm just right in the mood for this. I don't know. It's coming to Game Pass as well, so we've got no excuse. Pre-install now, and even though I think it's not out until June or July or something like that. So
they say that includes the PC version.
I don't know.
Because otherwise I won't be playing it, I guess.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely turned up on my Xbox as something I can pre-install, even though I think it's months away. Which is slightly odd.
That's good news.
It is good news. E3 came early. What else is going on? We had that... Speaking about E3 coming early. Pokemon did a direct.
Yes, and I did actually watch it in the end. Well... Sort of. Semi skimmed through it.
Yeah, so this was mostly to show off Pokemon Legends ZA.
Well, I don't know about mostly. Kind of they showed all of these things for an equal amount of time, which was a bit weird in that case.
Oh, okay.
They didn't spend as long on ZA as they could have. They did say that, though, out loud. So we know that's definitely what it's called now.
Yeah, it's not Z2A or ZAR. I still want to call it ZAR in my head.
Because it sounds like pizza.
Is it because it starts with a P and ends with ZAR? Yep. Is that what I'm... Oh, God. That's probably what I'm doing.
It's the Pokemon pizza game.
Is there a pizza Pokemon yet?
No, I don't think so.
Almost everything else is a Pokemon.
Well, they haven't had a Pokemon game set in Italy yet, or Pokemon Italy. We're going back to France this time again.
That was about ZA.
Well...
I want to say Z to A again.
Yep. Yeah. Well, they're going back to France. They're going back to Pokemon Paris, I guess, is the one that town is the equivalent of. But it's only, as far as we know, it's only going to be in that one city. Like, it's going to be contained within the city limits, basically.
I mean, that's a weird choice to me.
Well, it's a weird choice, but it's also like, their engine is really that shit, huh? They looked at what a disaster Ruby and Scarlet and Legends Arceus were and were like, okay, let's not do a huge open world.
Didn't Arceus not run that badly?
It ran... Well, it didn't run as badly, but it still had a lot of
terrible draw
graphical
distance.
glitches and all kinds of that kind of shit.
Oh, I thought Arceus wasn't from a technical perspective. I thought that wasn't so bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you don't mind the same draw distance problems that all of the open world Pokemon games have had.
It's a weird choice, though, right? Like wild zones, which are
inside the city,
the city, yeah.
But they're being like ecologically friendly in this city redesign that they're doing.
Ugh. I mean, this isn't Detective Pikachu.
Well,
it's not that.
Maybe.
Oh, what, you reckon it's that city?
Well, because no, I'm not saying it's that city specifically. But there was it was post game in. I forget which one of these games it was, X and Y, I guess it is. Post-game in that game, there was like a detective story.
Oh, really?
Well before Detective Pikachu, but it was like you go around with this random detective guy and I don't even remember what happens because I don't think I actually finished that little bit of extra storyline, but it had a detective story thing in that city, so maybe it will be able to, maybe there'll be some Detective Pikachu-esque thing happening.
Weird.
But yeah, no one really has any idea of what the actual story is going to be, except it's probably that the company working on this big rebuilding project is actually evil, because that's really obvious, and that's probably what it is.
Yeah. This whole city is a fusion reactor.
Yeah, this whole city is one giant Pokeball somehow, and it traps all the Pokemon in it.
Yes. No, it's for capturing humans.
Yeah, that's what we're going to discover.
I'll tell you what my Facebook has been full of recently.
Relatively, hopefully.
AI shit.
Well, maybe. There's been an ad for a game that is like, can't be real, is all I can say. But it looks like what if Pokemon was a horror game? Like it opens with like a classic Pokemon battle scene. It even looks like graphically like Pokemon, except like then another trainer appears opposite them, whose head then just goes yum and just eats you or something.
Okay.
And then like it shows like a scene where he's riding his bike through like a very early Pokemon looking map, but there's like a trail of blood on the floor. It's like what is this thing? Like I don't dare click on it because Facebook, right? Like, and clearly a fake thing that's been generated, but it's
I mean that could just be a fan game thing. You know, make a horror Pokemon game like you make a horror Sonic game.
Maybe, but then why would it be plastered all over like my sponsored list or something in like as an ad? Like it's
not an advert for a gun, so you know.
It's not an advert for a gun. No, there is that. I'll try and see if I can come up with it. Anyway, carry on. ZA.
Yeah.
Zar.
So it is basically a sequel to Legends Arceus in terms of like, you know, they're trying to do the more free form running around chucking balls at Pokemon style stuff, and this time they've also tried to even more free form the battle, where it's like now the Pokemon it's not turn based any longer. Like the moves are on cooldowns, and you physically move around in the space, so you can like dodge moves by actually moving out of the way. However you exactly control that, because obviously you're still controlling the human character, but the Pokemon, I guess, sort of follows you around, or you can command it individually to move.
And presumably, your character has some its own health, like it did in Arceus, right?
Presumably, yeah. They haven't shown anything like that yet of actual Pokemon hitting you, but yeah. Apart from that, it's this constrained cityscape will work better for their engine, although as people quickly pointed out, it looks like crap. It looks like crap because like all the buildings are just flat, they're just textures of windows on a flat polygon.
Yeah.
So there's no modelling in there at all.
It's not even a little bit of detail there.
There's like a single ridge halfway down the building that's got a slight amount of, there's a few extra polygons there. It's just like, wow. But maybe that'll make it run good for once. Maybe the draw distance won't be terrible.
I bet it still will be. Well, no, it'll be like what they'll do is there won't be a possibility for draw distance. Right, because they'll just like make corners everywhere.
Well, that is the convenient thing about that city is that city is a series of concentric circles, basically.
Yeah.
So there's always a curve that's going to helpfully obscure the draw distance where the buildings curve over it.
Except for when you go onto the roof, right? And that's
sure, then you'll be able to see all across the whole city, essentially.
And people aren't happy with that either, though, right? Because they showed you just teleporting to the top of the roof.
Yeah, it's like we didn't make a ladder climbing animation or just have a Pokemon fly you up there.
Yeah, I mean, surely that's an obvious thing. It should be tied on behind a Pokemon ability of some kind.
I mean, they wouldn't have even had to make it like one of your Pokemon. They could have just been like, as part of the urban development, we basically implemented Pokemon lifts where you were just going to have this Pokemon. Because they've already done that with like the fast travel in the previous games where it's like the Pokemon taxi service where it's like this big Pokemon carries a taxi around, basically. It's like, that's fine, except obviously in those it's just like, it's not even an animation, it's just like it cuts through a loading screen. But in this case, you could have just had like, I don't know, one of the balloon Pokemon elevates you up or something. Or any Pokemon that can fly, obviously.
Anything at all probably would have been better than a teleporter. Not that teleports haven't been in
Pokemon before, yes.
Yeah.
And you know, the other half of the city redevelopment is it's ecological and also technological.
Yeah.
They're trying to fancy it up. So that means teleporters, obviously.
Typically, as I talk about me being bombarded by this same Facebook ad.
Literally not in the ad stream at the moment.
Nope, it's not coming up. I guess
because it heard you talking about it, and it's like, now we know that he has received this advert, so we no longer need to show him this advert.
Yeah, I don't know what the game's called or anything like that. So if it was to make me buy it, like or put money into it, I have no idea how to engage with whatever it was. But there you go. I have acknowledged it. Therefore, Facebook doesn't care anymore, I suppose.
Success. There's always the worst thing that happens. This is completely not about Pokemon. I just want to jump back into YouTube for a second. And like the worst thing that happens, but it's not anything to do with like, it's not a real thing. It's just complete coincidence where it's just like, if I scroll down the homepage and it's like, I see a video and I'm like, I don't want to watch that now, but then it keeps showing up like repeatedly on the homepage every time I scroll down it. And it's like, no, I'm not watching that. And then when the one time I'm like, okay, now I'm going to watch that, and it just doesn't appear in the feed, and you actually have to physically search for it. It's like, God damn it, how did that happen? How did the algorithm specifically avoid showing me it the one time I actually did want to watch it?
Does have a tendency to do that. A number of times. The problem is, like, I guess the algorithm works by, like, it shows you something, right, in the list, and you go, oh, yeah, I might come back to that at some point. And then, of course, it's not going to show you it again because you didn't watch it the first time you saw it.
Well, that's what I don't understand. Sometimes it shows you the same thing again and again, even though you
did watch it.
Haven't clicked on it.
I mean, that's technically why there's that huge button where you can just press watch later and it puts it in the queue. It's like, if you're using YouTube's interface correctly, there's a solution to this problem. But if you're dumb like me, or you know, you don't use YouTube correctly, you use it in a weird way. So anyway, yeah, Pokemon. That was kind of the only thing from the presentation, apart from they're making what people are speculating is sort of the answer to the community web-based Pokemon battle thing that's been around for ages. I forget what it's called, but the people made a basically web interface Pokemon battle where they just imported all the Pokemon and moves and whatnot, and you can just play battles against people online. And yeah, basically the Pokemon company seem to be doing that in a sort of a Pokemon Stadium-esque way, but it's going to be like cross devices. So you could be like on your phone or on your console, I guess. And then just do Pokemon fights rather than playing a Pokemon game. Which, you know, that's what some people actually want. Just do the fights without the grind.
Yeah, just skip to the fight. I guess, presumably, they should have already known that from, like, Pokemon Stadium and
they should have known it
from
this community web-based thing that's been stealing their idea for this whole time. And they haven't shut it down yet, but I wonder if that's coming. I wonder that when they release their one, whether they'll suddenly be like, oh, it's time for the cease and desist notices.
Pokemon Infinite Fusion still going?
Kind of, but that ran into its own drama problems.
Oh, did it?
Well, there was an AI drama situation.
Oh. where some of the custom art for the fusions was being in AI.
No, and that's why it's even dumber because
that seems like the obvious thing.
Yes, that seems like the obvious thing. I mean, obviously there was already procedurally generated art for the sprites that didn't have custom sprites,
sure.
Not AI specifically. But what actually happened was that they started using AI to generate the Pokédex entries, like the text. And and just because it's AI, that's still like pissed off all the actual artists who were making the sprites. So then they like, you know, all walked out of the project.
So they had like a prompt which was like combine these two Pokédex entries.
Yeah, basically.
Right.
Because the way it worked when it was still procedural was it literally just took the first half of the Pokédex entry of the first Pokémon and then the second half and mashed them together, and it didn't make any sense.
Right. You'd think that would be better, even if
But yeah, it used AI, so all the artists were pissed.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But yes, I think that project is still going, and they've still in between all the artists being pissed, a lot more of the sprites did still get made. Just now, there's a sort of a simmering potential legal problem where artists who were pissed off and left the project are like, "And how did I allow you to continue using my shit?" What is the legal ramifications of this sprite work that I did for you for free?
None. Yeah, because you did it for an open project. Like, I mean, surely the license rights must have been agreed as part of the project at that point.
Well, I think the problem is like the concept of do you have the right to remove stuff after?
Good point.
After you've left the project or whatever.
I would argue no. Like you contributed, therefore, why would you take it back? Like,
if you disagree with the direction of the project or whatever, which is what this is all about.
But yeah, I wonder. I guess you could always ask, but that's the thing. They don't have to agree.
Yes, I mean that's where if there was an agreement. Did you read it at any point in that kind of situation? Have the terms changed? Can you legally change the terms, even if it's a free project or whatever, or an open source project? Anyway, that's some drama that I didn't really look into that much, but that's what's been happening with that. And yes, that was the Pokemon Direct. Not really much else to say. There wasn't any hint of the next actual Pokemon game.
No, and they didn't show anything on Switch 2.
That we know of.
Yeah. Well,
there's all might have been Switch 2.
Oh god, that would be awful.
Yep.
Can you imagine if that was actually how it transpires? It's like, and by the way, all of this was running on Switch 2, and it's like, and it looks like this.
But it's the Pokemon company. We know that they're terrible at making engines, apparently.
I just don't understand why they don't try and adopt something more mature or something that even Milesy agrees with me.
Yeah.
Make the Pokemon look nice is all he's saying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Why do they insist on using their own tech all the time? Like, is that maybe is there some benefit to it that we just don't understand?
It's fine for them to use their own tech. They should just spend some more money and make it better. It's not like they don't have fucking shit tons of money to spend on this.
No, but I mean, I guess that's my point. Like they could spend the money on making a decent engine, but they're clearly not good at that.
Well, they're only not good, I think, because they don't spend the money. Like, if you spend the money and got to hire a bunch of better developers or whatever.
Yeah, I guess. Well, we don't know.
Well, sure.
We don't know what they're.
Maybe you'd hire better developers and they would look at it and be like, what the fuck is this shit? I need to start over.
How is this so poorly optimized? Yeah. Maybe it's just the transition, during the transition to 3D, they never bothered buying 3D talent.
Well, yeah.
Like, presumably they've got modelers and stuff like that, because that side is all seemingly fine, right?
Well, but that was the drama about those first few Pokemon games as they made the transition, where it's like it seems like they made the models once and that was it. Like,
right.
I mean, admittedly, that is kind of you don't really need to update Pokemon models, I guess, unless you want to go full like we're going realism and they're all going to be furry. But
oh wow, yeah.
But yes, once those models were made, it seems like that was just work that was done once and that's it.
Get those Star Fox Adventures hair tech in there.
Yeah, exactly. Probably would make it look better than it does currently.
Probably would look better.
Anyway, that's Pokemon.
I mean, that's the other disturbing thing. It's like Star Fox Adventures looks better than these Pokemon games.
For much more limited scope.
Sure.
There's definitely no draw distances to worry about in Star Fox Adventures.
No. Still. It looks worse than the GameCube game. Than probably any GameCube game.
I have to say, in that Pokemon trailer, I didn't notice the trees, which means they're probably 5 now.
Oh, okay, right, yeah. Okay.
They've probably graduated to being just fine, unnoticeable.
Or did they just, were there just not any
There
trees?
was a few trees.
Okay. But the lack of notability was notable.
Yes, exactly.
That's all we got for news.
All right. Guess it's time for what you've been playing. Rob, what have you been playing?
We're not done with news.
Oh, God damn it.
Because just a quick one. I was leaving this because I'm going to talk about Yakuza 6.
Sure. I mean, that massive news in there.
Yakuza 6 Son of Life. Yeah, but there is a tiny bit of Yakuza news in the sense that Yakuza 6 is also leaving Game Pass now.
Just in time for you to finish
Just in time for me to finish it, yeah.
Okay.
Which I have done.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so it pulled the usual Yakuza trick on me a little bit, like which, you somewhat expect from these games, but it ends real well, is what I will say. The story does come to some sort of climax, and I think it does stick the landing pretty good. Which is, I don't know, was this the 7th one of these I've played, and it's they've managed it every single time, so shouldn't be a surprise at this point. I think my previous statements about the state of Yakuza 6 still stand, though. It is a slimline Yakuza. It's the slimmest Yakuza I think I've played in terms of like how much side content there is, in terms of how much gameplay variety there is, in terms of how deep the combat system is, in terms of the scope of the world, I suppose. Although Kiwami 1, I guess, is only Kamurocho, right? But then there's Onomichi in this one as well. But it's not all of Kamurocho in this one. It's like there's a little bit that's cut off. Yeah, so it's a strange one in that respect. But they and the mid section of Yakuza 6. I think last podcast, I was still in the midsection, I guess. And that is pretty weak this time around in terms of its storytelling and in terms of keeping you engaged and driving you forwards. I think like it's not uncommon with the Yakuza games to be a little bit, to be that's where they're lacking. That they are just meandering through the space of their story a little bit. There's definitely elements of the story where it's just like, oh, they've just threw this in because it happened in the previous games, and or these characters were involved in the previous games, or not even these characters, these entities. Korean mafia, for instance, these were involved in Kiryu's storyline at some point, so they're back. Haha. Somewhat needlessly is the problem here. They're not critical to the story in any real way. They feel like padding and complexity just to be complex. But where it ends up is still pretty cool and does justify justifies the story a little bit. Like I can see why they were trying to pitch it as like, oh, this is like Kiryu's big moment to some extent. He's like the stakes do seem pretty high towards the end of that game for once, in terms of Kiryu's life and what he could potentially be doing with it.
Higher than prison.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a. Yeah, so they get there. It's pretty cool. But weirdly, the game itself, I don't think necessarily earns that drama. Do you know what I mean? Like
right,
the where the story ends is stronger than the game that leads up to it, which is a shame. So I think my original thoughts are still true. I think this is possibly the weakest of the Yakuza games I've played. And that's even alongside Yakuza 3, which was my probably the weakest one for me thus far up to this point. But I think 3 is a bit clunky, right? Even in the remaster, it's a bit clunky. You can feel the age to it, but I feel like the fights in that had more weight. The encounters had more drama to them. The story had a more consistent flow to it throughout the entire runtime. And 3 did just have a wild bunch of side stuff to do. Sometimes more. I feel like 6 was lacking some of the like completely left field moments that the series is known for. Like, where is Majima popping up in absolutely every scenario? Majima's not really in this game. I should point that out. He's not in it for like almost the entirety of the runtime. He's in it at the beginning and the very end in just for a moment. Like it's not a Majima game. Boo. I think the boss fights were like really quite disappointing in 6 in general. Like only towards the end do they feel like they ramp up the mechanics. Like Yakuza does this thing normally where like if you get into a boss fight, it's like, okay, the guy you're fighting is normally pretty tricky. They might have some moves and some things that they can do that might not necessarily be in keeping with your normal combat mechanics. Like sometimes that's annoying. Like you'll have characters that very clearly have like armor on them at some point and they just take hits and it doesn't stun them or anything and they just carry on. And in some games they make that really obvious by like adding a white shimmer to the character while that's happening, and it's like, oh crap, they're armored for some reason. The problem is they don't necessarily like. It's never particularly obvious to you as a player why they're armored. But anyway, it's a bad example. But I guess what I mean is like that the boss fights feel like different fights, right? That I can't just fall back on my old mechanics, on my old way of dealing with things. I need to perhaps adapt my strategy to deal with this opponent, for whatever reason that is. And I didn't really get that sensation here at all. The other thing they tend to do is like they tend to like up the drama mid fight sometimes by having a little cutaway into what is the boss's secondary form where they catch on fire, like, which I guess is indicative of heat mode, which has always been Kiryu's thing right through this.
Right.
And then they become even more resistant to your attacks. Usually, like they'll be smarter at dodging out of the way of your attacks once they go into heat mode, or they'll have new attacks in their arsenal, which makes them even more of a threat. Or certain you won't be able to throw them anymore and get cheap heat actions against them by holding onto them and then pressing Y. Things like that suddenly stop working and you've got to adapt your strategy again. And it's like here in Yakuza 6, their heat mode transitions never felt like they did anything. Like they just went on fire to indicate you're halfway through this fight, I guess. And it's strange because the strangest, and I think I've talked about this before. It's strange because I think Yakuza 6, like, this was the first game that they built on the Dragon engine, but they clearly sorted out all of these problems by the time they got around to making Yakuza Kiwami 2, which is one of my favorites. And it's so all of these things they just hadn't quite figured out, I guess, by the time they were made to put a game out, I suppose, before they got around to putting together Kiwami 2. Which is the same engine and has a bunch more stuff and is a way more interesting game.
That's the one you want to play.
Yeah. From that era of time, anyway. But all of this is pretty negative, but it's pretty negative in the context of a pretty great series.
Yeah. And it had a killer ending still. So.
Yeah.
So what's next on the docket for Yakuza?
I mean, technically, if I'm being completionist, I need to switch to Judgment next.
Are you being completionist?
Yeah, I do kind of want to play Judgment.
I think you kind of are.
I do kind of want to play Judgment next. It's,
not really for completionism, just to see.
Yeah, just to see, because it's going to be a completely new set of characters. It's like I don't think any of the cast from Like a Dragon is in Judgment. The biggest character of all is in it though, Camarocho.
Yeah.
So the whole game is still set in the same area of town, which we already know is can look beautiful in the Dragon engine and the one. And I think there's a good. I think Judgment when it first came out was Xbox One, PS4 era, but the version you can get now is an enhanced version. That's already happened. They already made Judgment Series X happy. So yeah, that's probably next on the to-do list. It's not on Game Pass, so I'm going to have to acquire it somehow. What's that? An exchange of money, you say?
Yeah, what's that? I'm Tetris.
But yeah, I really, I still love you, man. I still love you, Kiryu.
But you love Majima more.
I think the key. Oh man, Kiwami 1 is just, it's spoiled you.
I mean, the key is both of them.
Yeah, the key is both of them. Yeah, Yakuza 1 and 0 really spoils you because that's like, okay, Kiwami 1 is incredibly hard to beat with the Majima Everywhere system.
Yeah.
It's just the best. And the problem is that because they did it there, it's like, it's incredibly hard to do again with any meaning.
Because they've used up all the jokes, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was a phenomenal thing. Yeah, so they really can't do it again. But at least in like even though the Kiryu and Majima storylines aren't as interwoven, perhaps as I would have liked, at least like 50% of the game is Kiryu and 50% of the game is Majima in Yakuza 0. Right? It's although even then I said Majima felt a little toned down in 0. He hadn't yet earned his Mad Dog reputation, right? So he wasn't quite the same Majima yet. World building. But just look at his dumb face in Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Come on, that's a pretty dumb bit of key art.
Without Kiryu, is it going to work?
Yeah, it'll be fine. Pure insanity. That's what I'm pretty hyped for these last few games because they just the last 3 Yakuza games just seem to have just lost all semblance of reality. Whereas, I suppose, again, that's the other thing I didn't really touch on here. Yakuza 6 is way more grounded, I think, than some of the previous games. They drop some of the absurdity in favor of being a bit more faithful to the actual plot, I suppose, and what he could actually be capable of. And it's like, I'm not here for that. I'm here for that weird balance of melodrama and people with no friction flaws. Just sliding on their asses for some reason. That was one of the best side missions in Yakuza 5. That's gonna live with me forever. It's so stupid. Yeah, I'm here for the absurdity as I am the looking at the sky and shouting "No!" when someone dies. You know.
Yeah. Point Break style.
Yeah. I do love how, like, canonically Kiryu is supposed to have not killed people, yet during the end of this game, like, during parts of the end of this game, he's blowing helicopters out of the sky. Right. It's like he's clearly killed many, many people. Like, some of his heat actions are literally steal knife from person, stab them a bunch. Right. Steal gun from person, shoot them 3 times. Like, yeah, Kiryu's clearly killed, but canonically he's fine. He's not a murderer.
It's because they're Yakuza, they don't count as people.
Yeah, apparently. Like, it only counts if it's
civilians.
Yeah.
It's like Assassin's Creed, where it's like, you can't kill civilians, but you can do whatever the fuck else you want.
Yeah, thugs are fine. Yeah. They don't matter. Nobody cares. So there's that. What else I've been doing? I had a little bit of time to myself, and around birthday times, because
because that's what you want for your birthday.
Well, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, give me some time to myself.
Don't get me wrong, I love my friends and family, but sometimes time is the best thing you can give me. Yeah. No. I don't know if that picked up on the mics, but Gnome just shouted, "I heard that." But it's true. Sometimes you just need a little moment. So I started playing. I put the VR headset on.
Right.
And I
started, really time for yourself.
You can only do that when it's just you.
Pretty much, yeah. I did set up. The living room doesn't have the coffee table in it at the moment, so I thought I'd fire up. Let's try a room scale-y experience in the form of Seventh Guest VR. So I never played the original Seventh Guest back in the day.
When did that come out? 1993 or something?
Yeah, real early. Yeah, I never played that back in the day, but I was mildly intrigued by the VR version because they were doing some cool volumetric actors stuff. Like, and by that I mean like they were like capturing real performances of real actors, but in 3D and putting them in the environment as you play around. And in Seventh Guest, they do kind of play out as like their ghosts, their memories that you're revisiting.
Right.
So the slight jankiness of that like kind of works, right? They're sort of displayed ethereally, and you can get just about close enough to see that the polygons are like burbling a little, I suppose, like bobbling a little bit around. And obviously when people open their mouths, it's not like capturing fully in the gob, if you know what I mean. Or if you're looking at them from the side, like, you know, the gob gap isn't 100% right. But it's really interesting because you can just like you can start one of these sequences off and just like, I don't want to look at your face while you're talking this sequence. I'm going to turn around and look at the back of your head for some reason. Like you can totally do that if you want, and it is pretty cool. Just that representation and how that works. It's nice. It's a shame those performances weren't recorded at high frame rate. They're recorded at like 30 FPS, like in a VR world, which is running at like 90 FPS, right? So it does look like you're, in a weird way, it does look like you're watching a video sequence in the world in front of you. It's a bit strange, but it's still kind of a neat effect. Anyway, the game, it's a puzzler, as you might expect, but it's. I wouldn't say the puzzles have been super hardcore so far, but it is kind of cool just doing it. And I haven't played anything like The Room or stuff like that, which seems to be like the zenith in some respects of the VR puzzlers. But it's kind of similar. Like, so the plot generally revolves around you walking into a room, and the idea is that room is the puzzle, and there will be usually multiple things you need to do at once in order to solve one larger singular puzzle. So often in the first room, the dining room you go into, for instance, you need to find a couple of ornamental plates in order to put them on this thing. So they pull the switches down, so they open another puzzle up, so then you can solve that puzzle, and then you're done with the room. And then other rooms in the house open and you can carry on. But it's the tactility in VR does kind of make it a little bit more interesting. I mean, I'm sure this would be fine without the VR component, but it is kind of fun just to be carrying stuff around with your hands and slotting them into place in order to do what you need to do. There's this pretty cool mechanic, like you're carrying around this lantern, and in places of the house that you haven't solved or cleaned up yet, like the house is old as far as you're concerned, and in disrepair and dirty and covered in cobwebs. But when you shine the lantern over them, it reveals what it was like at the time of the story. So it's all cleaned up behind the lantern, which is like flowers are still blooming behind the lantern, so you can move it around, and it can be used to reveal some clues in places and little bits about the environment. It's a neat effect. I like the fact that every single painting in the mansion has like an alternate version when you shine the light over it, and some of them are pretty funny. Like they're just dramatically changing some people's head sizes for some reason, or changing their expression, or taking what looked like, I don't know if any of these are real like paintings or something, but like taking a painting and then contorting what's happening in it. It's like, oh, it's this lovely countryside scene. Oh, it's the same countryside scene, but everything's on fire.
this small child has horns for some reason, or this picture of a mother holding a child, and then you shine the lantern on it, and it's the child holding a small mother. Like it's like I don't know. For some reason, all of that stuff is pretty. It's pretty cool to just go around and be like, "What's happening in this one? Oh, that's messed up." I don't know. The puzzles themselves are usually pretty simple, but there's been a couple of moments where the problem has been finding the puzzle.
Right.
You walk into a room and be like, okay, I know I need to get this many things, but I don't know I don't know where this last one is. There was one in particular that took me friggin' ages to find what the game wanted me to do. Because I'm trying not to use there is a hint system that unlocks at one point, and there's straight up a solve this for me system as well if you want. Just so if you're more interested in just the storyline, you can just crack through.
I see.
But you have to find there's these coins that you find about. You have to find those coins and then you spend those basically to solve the puzzle for you, of which I've not done any of that.
Okay.
And there is a hint system, as I say, you can bring up on your little Ouija board that you're carrying around for you, and you can go into that and be like, it'll give you a hint to the room. And in fairness, I've used that a couple of times just to give me some sort of indication on what on earth I'm supposed to be doing. Like, not so much a hint to the puzzle, but like, okay, what is the puzzle I'm supposed to be solving?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it seems well made. I think some of the if I had a criticism, it would be that some of the actions, the dexterity you need for some of the actions seems to be a little high.
Really?
Like I don't know. There's at one point there was a classic like. Do you know those traffic jam puzzles where you need to get a car out of the parking lot by moving the other cars out of the way? That classic thing. There was one of those, and I found it pretty difficult to get my VR hand to grab the right thing to move out of the way.
Right, because they were like too small, basically.
Yeah.
You needed them scaled up a little bit more.
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, Well, Muzzy's not happy about that. I need to... it seemed, it was annoying because it looked like my hand was in the right place in VR space, and then you'd push the trigger. I'm using a MetaQuest 2 to do this through Steam VR, and I'd pull the trigger to grab the thing, and it would just snap slightly off from where I was to something else. It's like, no, can't you see where my fingers are? Like, I'm basing this entirely off what you're showing me, and then I'm pressing the grip button, and you're snapping off where it looks like my hand is. It's like, There's been a couple of moments like that. Walking through doors confused me at one point because I'm not 100% sure how I would do this easily without the sliding locomotion option. So the game... Obviously, like moving around in VR is a bit of a motion sickness problem for some people, and in fairness, it's a little bit for me. If you're using like push the stick and it moves you in a traditional way, like an FPS, right? That can feel very weird in VR. Fortunately, this has has a both mode, as in so you can do both the sliding locomotion and also point to teleport to that location stuff at the same time. So. Yeah, in that mode for me, it's left stick to slide, right stick to put a pointer on the ground. And that's working pretty well in terms of... So I can do minor adjustments with the slide and do big movements across the landscape with the teleport. That's working for me in terms of motion sickness. But to get through doors, like it seemingly... Like I have to hold onto the handles for the door, and I haven't quite figured out how to just... Like, so you pull the handle down, and then... The first set of doors I had to do like this is a set of double doors. And I'm like, okay, can I just throw these forward? Well, is that going to work? Is that going to open them? And and I couldn't get that to work. So I was just pulling this handle down and punching the air. And this door just wasn't opening. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? So like the only way I found to get it to work was to pull the handles down and then slide forward with the locomotion stick, and then I would sort of push myself into the room, and the doors would kind of open around me. And it's a weird black mark against something that is actually pretty good at like at knowing where your hands are, right, and reacting to those. Like, so you can just knock stuff about with your hands, which is kind of fun. Or even if a wardrobe door is open in front of you, you can, like, if you've opened it a little bit, you can then use your hands to pry it open, right? Like, it does the physics of that pretty well. It's just walking into the bloody rooms. Seems to be a little problematic. I don't know. Maybe I'm just doing it wrong. I don't know. But I think I know doors pretty well after 40 years of existence on this planet.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe. I have not yet mastered the wooden slab, vertically arranged on a hinge. What do you call such a device? It was nice to do some VR stuff, is what I'm saying. Like, yeah, it's a nice change of pace. Speaking of changes of pace,
that's cool.
Changes of
and
pace,
a good thing to do with your alone time.
Yeah, when it's a little bit quieter in the house.
Your rare alone time.
Yeah. Speaking of changes of pace, I also fancied. I don't know. It was relatively late one night, and I'm like, what am I going to do? I could play Balatro again.
Yeah, it's the go-to.
It is kind of the late night go-to for me at the moment, but like I could play that again, or I could try something else. I mean, I did leave my Steam Deck in the other room, and I can't be asked to go get it. What am I going to do on this here Xbox? For some reason, I've started playing Spyro the Dragon.
Okay.
Seriously?
Yeah. Okay. The Spyro Reignited trilogy is on Game Pass after the Activision acquisition and stuff like that. So it's which was, I think, Xbox One, PS4 era remake of the first 3 Spyro games. And I had played the original Spyro on PlayStation back in the day, and I don't remember getting that far into it. Or more accurately, I don't really have a recollection of how far through the game I was at all. I don't really know how big that game was, but I remember being kind of impressed with it back then. It being a good 3D platformer. So I thought, yeah, I could probably this can't be very long, right? I can bash through this. I'm 5.5 hours through this into this, and I think I'm about 2/3 of the way through the game. It's like, and I'm 100%ing it as I go. So it's a bit longer than I expected. So yeah, I'm playing the reignited version. Like little comparisons here, like there's. Because this was designed for the Xbox One era, like it struck me as a little strange that a game like this isn't running at 60 FPS, right? But I guess a generation ago, it probably was just running like that, right? Like they probably, if they updated it on console for the newer hardware, it could probably easily run at 60. But it just struck me as it was immediately obvious to me. It's like, oh, all right, yeah, I was expecting. Oh, I guess yeah, this is older than I thought. Never mind, we'll carry on. It's also a shame that it's lacking one of those like hot swap buttons. I really would have liked to have swap it back to PlayStation 1 graphics and be like, what did this look like? And now
it wouldn't be the same though, because you wouldn't be able to. Well, I mean, you could make it simulate how it actually looked on PlayStation, but you wouldn't have the PlayStation polygon jiggle unless you faked it.
Oh yeah, presumably. I wouldn't necessarily have minded even if it didn't. Like if it wasn't a 1-to-1. It wasn't 100% faithful, but it would have been nice to have seen like some recreation of the old look. Because I don't have enough of a recollection to know how much of the new styling is new, especially when it comes to things like the animations and the like. When you one of the main quests of this game, it is a bit of a collectathon game, I guess. 3D platformers, right? That's kind of what they are. But it's a collectathon in the. Not in the Banjo-Kazooie kind of way. It's more small levels kind of way. And one of the things you're collecting is you're freeing dragons from their crystal statues. But there's a little animation that the dragon does, and a little conversation that happens like every time you release one. And I have a vague recollection that at least some of those in the PS1 eras were pretty detailed, like pretty good animation. But I can't believe that they're as nice as they look now. On like the animation is very good in this version of the game, so there's a little bit. There's just an intriguing part of me. It's just like, okay, how janky did this look back in the day? Like, or how not janky did it look back in the day? Was it really that good back in the PS1 era? they've obviously done work to it now to tidy it up, but it would have been nice to have seen some of the originals for this. I know I can just look it up, like I can probably just stream it and stuff like that, but I really do appreciate a game when they are trying to be such close remakes, like just that mode switch button. Which I wasn't quite sure from the trailer, but like, was that Tony Hawk's 3+4? It looked like they were showing footage from 3, like actual 3.
Yeah, well, that's probably just showing what it was like, not like they're going to have a mode switch on that, probably.
Yeah, it'd be really nice if it did.
I think that's right. I don't think it will have a mode switch because it's not like Halo where it's running the same thing underneath, right?
Yeah, it's a shame. I do love it. I do love it when they do that.
I mean, it's cool, but
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, Night Dive remakes, they've tended to make sure they keep the original graphic styling there if you want it. Night Dive are kind of top of their game, right, on this stuff. So Spyro, it's a collectathon. The levels are normally pretty small, which doesn't make it too arduous to. The exploration part when you miss something is never that bad, I guess. Like you can see, like, oh, I'm expected to find this many gems in the level. There's this many dragons to find. There's some other secret thing to find. Like it tells you all of that up front. And so like because the levels are relatively small, like it's quite nice just being able to like, okay, I've missed something. This level can't be that big, right? Like it's got to be here. What I'm missing has to be here, and that's quite nice. Like it diminishes the boredom, I suppose, that you could probably fall into if you were having to traverse a big open world to be like, there's one more thing here. There's one more star in this bloody Mario Odyssey level. Where the cock is it? There's not much of that here. There's definitely some secrets, and like, right. So yeah, it's fine. And the boss fights are super easy. Like it's not been a super difficult game so far. And that's fine. That's kind of what I want. I just want to be able to like kind of blitz through this thing.
Yeah, of course.
However, I guess and when the first Spyro came out, I can't remember if it must have been subtly after Mario 64, right? It's in that window, right, where 3D platforms are still pretty new. They're still a little bit fumbling, shall we say, with the mechanics of these things. Some of the level design is as nice and quirky as it can be, and their graphic style is pretty nice. Like there's just some things about the mechanics and the old level style that are quite frustrating at times. Like some of the secrets really are pretty obscure and pretty hard to see, and like some of the very early ones require quite precise jumps and quite precise glides. We've got tiny dragon wings to actually get to the places that you're supposed to go. You can kind of see that that's what you need to do, right? So that's, especially in the early game, discoverability isn't too much of a problem, but execution is frequently a pain in the ass, which is surprising, right? For like a game like this, it's especially early on. We are just trying to find all the stuff in this particular level, and it gets more and more obscure as it goes on. And I think one of the most problematic mechanics is they introduce this thing called the supercharge. And what that means is so one of Spyro's moveset is pretty simple. He jumps, he glides, he can run forwards with his sort of dragony horns out the front for a charge attack, and he can flame things. That's it. As far as I'm aware, that moveset doesn't really expand through the game, except not as a base. Your base moveset doesn't expand, but there are things in levels that can modify that a little bit. So one of the things that can modify it is there'll be ramps, downward ramps that have like big old arrows on them. And as you run down that puts you into a supercharge. Not just a charge, but a supercharge. So you speed up, you gain more momentum, you can do more damage to stuff en route. And you can take big ass jumps if you want. And that's where the game gets really, let's say, quote unquote, creative with some of the routes it expects you to take to get to some of the secrets. They can be pretty obscure, especially in one of the levels with plenty of instant death holes, where it's expecting you to make really awkward jumps around these pathways in order to hit not just one supercharge pad, but no, to make your way to multiple supercharge pads so you can gain enough speed to make these ridiculously large jumps to get to these secret areas just to unlock a little bit of treasure. It's super hard to explain, but it's basically like it's just not obvious. And there's one level in particular called Treetops where which is the worst offender for that, by far. Like there's just like they even try and help you by apparently like they're having dudes at the start of the level sort of run away from you, and they're supposed to like guide you to see so you can see where that jump is to make. Problem is, in my experience, those guys have already done a runner before I can even get anywhere near them, so I can't see the route they're taking, and they want me to take. If you're just exploring the level normally the first time through, these guys are going to be long gone and they're going to be at their endpoints. So you kind of have to load back into the level later with your only purpose being I'm going to chase this guy, and then you can have a vague chance of seeing the route he takes. And even then, it's a little bit like you could just miss it. Like it's really easy to miss the route they take. And I had to end up watching a video for one of the routes this guy takes to be like, how on earth can I pull this off? And it's like, oh, that is really freaking weird. I've got to make a massive turn in midair, do one of these jumps just to land on this route that doesn't look like it should be the route, but it's friggin' nuts.
How did you work that out? Or?
I didn't. No, I had to look it up.
Okay.
It was, it's mental. Like there's just a couple of moments every now and then where it's just like, okay, that is really obscure.
This is where the kind of NES era kind of bled into the PlayStation era, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. It's like, it's one thing for them to be like secrets, I suppose, and for them to be optional fun stuff. But when it's like, okay, yeah, I don't necessarily need to 100% this game. I don't know why I've started on that quest, but
yeah.
But, I see a sparkling thing in distance. I want to go get it. And it's, there's definitely moments where it doesn't quite hang together, or the what it wants you to do is quite annoying. I don't know if I want to give praise to this particularly, but I kind of like the bit of me likes the fact that the achievement design is a bit old school. It's not just the achievements aren't just progress through the game. It's like sometimes that achievement list is like do something weird in the level, like find a specific thing that isn't that isn't tied to the progression, like assuming it's something they've like added to the game for some reason. It's like, yeah, go find this weird thing and do this weird action, or they're like achievements just for the sake of achievements, like kind of like how they used to be in the early days of the 360. It's like, yeah, try and do this thing. You don't have to, but try and do this thing. It's an achievement. And a bit of me kind of likes that. They're not actually written anywhere in the game. You do have to kind of go into the achievement list and have a look and be like...
Sure. I mean, obviously they wouldn't have been written in the game at the time.
Well, no, there wouldn't have been achievements back when these were made. But, yeah, so I'm having a pretty good time of it. But it's... it clearly shows its age.
Well, yeah, as you might expect. Yeah.
It's just, it's the precision of some of the jump requirements is so infuriating sometimes. Like, you really have to leave your jump to the last minute off a ledge. Make sure you're choosing the shortest possible distance between 2 points in order to make the jump. Get your glide just perfect. Otherwise, you're slightly butting the edge of it and falling to your doom. It's like, I don't know that they've quite, is Mario's like box metrics model or whatever. It's like, okay, this jump goes those 3 spaces or whatever, and this jump goes to, it's like their box model doesn't quite work or something, or they just didn't play test it particularly in spots, or we're just too hardcore during their own play testing. And they're like, we're too good at this. Yeah, I don't know. There's things like that that just feel like it's like, a little bit of refinement there could have really tidied this up a bit. But And to be fair to it, I honestly have no idea if those are problems with the original game or if they are weird quirks that have resulted from the remake process. Like maybe something is a little different with the jump mechanics. I don't know, but my money's on it's 100% the original game's fault.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I'm doing that alongside playing Balatro.
Classic.
Which will act as a curious segue.
Helpfully.
Really?
Because Zach's been playing it.
Yep.
Because it turned up on Game Pass.
Well, that's not why, though.
Oh, no.
I got it in a sale before that,
Okay.
and then it turned up on Game Pass, and I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, I know. It's mildly annoying.
It was annoying because it was on Xbox Game Pass, but not PC Game Pass. Then the sale happened, and I bought it, and then it came to PC Game Pass.
So there was a delay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's super annoying. Oh, well.
Yeah, oh well. It's probably worth it. It's
It
probably
is
worth
definitely-
10 quid.
It's definitely worth it. Yeah.
But yeah, I played that and basically caught up to what
Game
Rob's
of the
done.
moment,
I know you've
apparently.
been absolutely pounding this thing.
I mean, not especially. I didn't feel like I was, but I put in approximately the same amount of time as Rob has.
I mean, I thought I've been playing it a fair amount. Okay, admittedly, alongside Yakuza, right?
Yeah.
And everything else I do, but I thought I've been putting in a pretty good stint in Balatro. And you caught up to me in like 3 days.
Yeah.
You do have a full-time job, Rob.
Well, yeah.
And less time apart from that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that game's totally fine. Totally good.
Okay.
I don't know if there's much to add to that, apart from, like, you know, we could go into unnecessary detail about things that we've done that won't make any sense to anyone who hasn't played it.
No, but there's...
Well, I mean, maybe some vague things, like, it seems, from what I've done so far, this is just like, see if Rob agrees, but, like, it seems like the two basic strategies are flush or pairs. Like,
oh, no,
that's
not at all for me. Like, I find pairs generally too weak.
Well, they're too weak to go, you know, super far, but you can win with pairs pretty easily.
Okay, I had a 2-pair strategy that depends what jokers you get.
Well,
obviously.
yeah, obviously.
That's the whole game.
That is the trick.
But yeah, there's a way of making a 2-pair strategy work pretty well. No, for me, generally, it's been straights. Straights are my go-to.
I did, like, my first couple of runs I was doing straights, but I was like, this is actually too difficult. Flushes are slightly easier.
Have you found all the hand types yet? Because I'm missing one, and I don't know what it could be.
What do you mean hand types?
So there are as in the hands you can play. There's like a couple.
Oh,
of,
right, yeah.
There's like a couple of hands that wouldn't be possible
because they're not in the. You have the list of like the things you can play, but they're the standard Pokemon ones.
Yeah.
And then there's the secret ones you get by because you can modify your deck, like 5 of a kind.
5 of a kind, yeah. Or I only just managed to make the Flush House.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But I don't know what I'm sure there's one more, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I was looking at that, and I haven't worked because the thing is that there's also those are linked to the extra planets.
Yeah,
because those don't appear until you've played that hand.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's only so many things that it could be, right? Because there's only 5 cards to work with.
Yeah, exactly. There must be one combination that I just can't think of to try.
I do find it kind of annoying how sometimes even the regular poker ones will just screw you if you're not paying attention.
Sure.
Because like if you're playing a flush deck and you accidentally play a royal flush, and it's like, oh, that doesn't have a good multiplier because I haven't been upgrading that.
I haven't, or just a straight flush, right? Yeah. I haven't leveled up my straight flush, so it's like, cock, that's worse.
Because it should just count as a flush anyway, but that's not.
They don't.
It
combine.
doesn't do it that way because some things do that. Where it's like if you're
some of the jokers do that.
Yeah,
right?
if you have the joker that's like if your played hand contains a pair, it doesn't mean if you play a pair. It means if the thing you played contains a pair at all.
Yeah, so that means it counts for pair, 2-pair, flush,
3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, 5 of a kind.
Not flush. I mean, it could contain a flush pair with a player in it.
Yeah, I guess.
But the full house, for instance.
Yeah. But yeah, it does that for that, but not like for the named things.
Yeah,
it doesn't work the other way around. But yeah, and then so apart from playing flushes and pairs, it seems like I've already it seems like I can never pass up in terms of jokers. I can never pass up hallucination because that's just too powerful.
Oh, yeah. Which one is that?
The one where whenever you open a pack, you have a 50% chance to get an extra tarot card for free.
Yeah, that's quite nice.
And then,
my last few runs have been reliant on the playing a tarot ups your multiplier.
Right.
That Joker seems pretty
nuts. It's like magician. No, it's not magician. It's similar to that, though.
It just looks like a Joker, but he's got a purple hat.
Yeah, the purple.
Yeah. But that, if you get that early on,
you
don't even have to get that early on because it's not even
because it's
played
not
while you have it. It's like
it's literally just keeps count. Unlike the planet one.
So if you're using the Zodiac deck, which has a propensity for tarot cards to turn up more often in the store, and you get that Joker, it's like that's a pretty potent combo.
It's pretty potent, but it doesn't keep up that well towards the end.
You still got to add multipliers. Yeah. Right? Multipliers are the trick to keeping your deck going. I ended up with a really potent one the other day where I had the tarot thing, but I also had the telescope vouchers. Right. So I was getting planet cards out the wazoo.
Yeah.
I ran Certificate at the start of the game, which adds seals to cards, right? So I had a deck with a bunch of blue seals.
Oh, right, yeah. That's the strategy for planet grinding.
And then I forget. I think it's called Constellation or something like that. The Joker that gains 0.1 multiplier every time you use a planet card. So I was getting so many planets.
I mean, that's basically that is basically the strategy that I've used to win with pairs. Because it's real easy to win with a pair, trigger the blue seal, so you get the planets for the pair, and then just keep doing that every time. Get 2 more Mercuries, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was, that proved pretty powerful. I just can't. If I like every run I win though, are you going into endless or are you bailing out? So I can't get past '11.
Yeah, I think that's as far as I got as well.
It's such a wall.
Yeah, I don't know what. Like, I've been trying to look at it from that perspective of like, where are the tricks? And I haven't seen one yet. I haven't seen an obvious. There's one I do know that would be powerful, but I don't think it would be that powerful. Which would be, you'd have to use. There's that one Joker which makes it so you can get multiples of the same card.
Yeah.
And if you got that early in the run and then got like 5 copies of the stencil, which gives you a 5 times multiplier, but if you have any other Jokers in your hand, it goes down, but the stencil doesn't count. So you could have 5 times multipliers.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's insane.
That's the only thing that I've come up with that would give you a really insane multiplier. But even that, I don't think is high enough to go super far.
The probability of you getting that as well is so...
I don't know if there is a way to like specifically target a Joker to clone, apart from the blueprint, but that's a separate Joker.
I think the thing that's happened to me like almost every run in this game is like I've had this like, oh, this is the deck I'm going for in my head, but you never get far enough to be anywhere near to achieving that perfect deck, right? I got pretty close in one of my runs of eliminating all suits apart from clubs.
Yeah, I mean that's the flush decks.
But yeah, well, I was going like that was actually a straight flush deck for me in the end.
Right,
like that ended up really potent, like probably my strongest deck to date. But yeah, that was fun. That one. But yeah, still, you hit ante-11, and it's just like the requirement jumps so harshly. It's just like I do not know how I can keep up with this.
Yeah, there's definitely. I mean, obviously, there's literally just the infinite tricks that game has, where there's certain combos where you can just break it entirely and score infinite points.
Oh,
but I don't know. I haven't seen any hint of what that is because I can't even imagine how that would happen. Like if you had a multiplier that was actually a divisor, then you could divide by 0 and then that would create an infinity. But I've never seen anything that's not just a straight multiplier.
No,
I have seen ways you could get a multiplier to 0 and therefore have a 0 to work with.
But then you're never dividing.
No, you're never dividing. So
and you just zero out your entire chip stash.
Yeah, it's like I haven't seen where these tricks are going to come from, but I know they're there.
No, there's some Jokers as well that I can't fathom how they would be useful.
Yeah.
Like some of the ones where it's like
or some of the celestial cards or things like that. It's like, well, you can do this right now, but you can duplicate a Joker, but that will be the only Joker you have two of. It's going to destroy the rest of you, or it will destroy all your money, and money is such a critical part of that flow.
Those do just seem like if you get lucky and get that on like the first blind or whatever,
super early. But getting celestials super early is next to impossible chance. It's all this nuance that I think is fantastic about it, and it's like I think I might be already getting to the point, or maybe you're feeling it as well, where it's like maybe 150 Jokers wasn't enough.
Yeah,
maybe I could do it with another 100. Maybe I need Pokemon Black and White.
Yeah, exactly. I think that there is the one thing that I will Saladcast review this and say the one problem I have with it.
I had a probability deck once. That was fun. I had the dice, right? That doubles all probabilities.
I mean, if you get the dice and the hallucination, guaranteed extra free card.
My deck was almost entirely lucky cards.
So, well, that only doubles it from like 1 in 15 to 2 in 15.
I know, but when it came up, it was like, woo! It felt like gambling.
Yes. Well, that is the one problem.
News: this game is no longer Peggy 18.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Because it's not treated as gambling.
The one problem that I do have does kind of rely on that, though, which is that I'm starting to feel the problem of the early game being too much reliant on random.
I can see that, especially as you up the difficulty.
Yeah, if you don't. You almost have to buy the first Joker you come across. If you wait even to the second blind, you're already kind of falling behind, especially later on as you up the difficulty, where you don't have as many options to start with.
Have you found that, basically, when you up the difficulty even to red, right? The first blind you pretty much have to skip, and
you can still
get a good skip.
You can still play it if you think that you can make a hand and win in 1 or 2, and then get the extra couple of bucks from the hands.
Yeah, it's pretty minimal, but
it's like if the skip bonus is something you don't even care about, then you might as well just go for 2 extra bucks from the hands.
Yeah, you can try it, but then you've pretty much got to just money make off the second one as well.
Well, that is the other thing that is I feel that there's no way around it, where it's just you always just play to the interest. You basically don't spend any money until you reach 25, and then you only spend the money that you make from the interest plus the win.
Did you get? Have you got the achievement for getting $400?
No, because I've never bothered saving money. I just always spend it. Just re-roll the shop and shit done.
Yeah, yeah. I did a specific run for that. I ended up with To the Moon and and all of the interest gain vouchers, and it's this has gone pretty well. I think that run also managed to get to anti-11.
Yeah.
But then fluffed that.
So that's that. I mean...
It's great, yeah.
It's good. We have to, I'm just waiting for something to happen that is going to make these ridiculous combos. It's you get fairly ridiculous, but then there's just this wall, and it's there must be a way past it, waiting to see what it is.
Do you think they're going to do expansions?
I mean...
They've done a bunch of just card art, yeah. But
I mean, they could, but I feel they'd probably have to do it like FDL or whatever, where it's a toggle where you add the extra stuff in,
100%.
So it doesn't break the balance.
Yeah, it'd be an extended mode.
I mean, even just unlocking the cards, it feels like it's breaking the balance.
Sure,
where you're oh shit! If I make those new planet cards and those get added to the pool of planet cards, it's going to fuck up the planet card balance.
Yeah, those follow the same rules as the hands. They only turn up once you've played it,
right?
Yeah,
sure.
So that's not so much of a problem.
Well, unless you have to play that hand for some reason, then it messes with you because you're not actually playing that hand.
And then there's the legendary Jokers that you can
only get through souls.
Through souls, yeah. Which so that's crazy rare. So they don't mess things up either.
Yes.
But then, 1 card out of 150 isn't messing the balance too much.
Well, not too much, but still. And it's only 1 card out of 250, except for there's going to be multiple 1 cards that you don't want per run.
Sure. Yeah.
That's why you end up re-rolling the shop a bunch if you've got extra money. Just be like, no, don't want that. Just go for look for the one thing that might actually improve your run instead of all these other things that won't.
And hope you have the cheap reruns.
Yeah, well, yes.
More opportunities to make negatives would be good as well.
Well,
they are crazy.
They're super powerful.
They're powerful, but like the chances of you getting a negative that you actually want is pretty low.
That's always the problem I have with using the Wheel of Fortune, where it's like, it's going to foil the one Joker that I probably want to get rid of.
Yeah. It does do that.
And I still occasionally forget to, think about whether it's worth getting rid of a Joker just because it's like your multiplier always seems more worthwhile, but it's only more worthwhile if you have a literal multiplier, not just pure numbers. Because plus 30 chips is exactly the same as plus 30 multiplier if the multiplier then isn't multiplied.
Sure.
Because it's just on the other side of the multiplication.
Yeah. I mean, you still need to be worried about your chip count. Otherwise, the multiplier's not, even if it's huge and in the thousands, which it can be.
Yeah.
Like if you haven't got a good chip count.
But what I mean is that, like, until you get a card that specifically multiplies the multiplier, chips and multiplier are exactly the same.
Mm.
Even though perception, you think multiplier is worth more because it is at that point. But in the early game,
it isn't. Yeah.
It's exactly the same and actually worse in most cases because you get like plus 4 multiple plus 30 chips in a lot of that kind of scale. And I guess that does remind me of the one other problem that I have, which is like you have to do maths.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, you have to do maths in a way that like the game could do it for you, but that would ruin the like fanfare of the game.
Yeah.
Because like the whole point is
sequencing. Right?
Yeah, the whole point is like you play your hand and then it pings all the jokers and it shows you the numbers building up or whatever. But then when you're in a risky situation where you're like, I only need to score this exact amount of points and I think I can make it with this hand, but I don't know for sure. But then the game isn't going to tell you, so you actually just have to literally do the maths and figure out if it is going to let you win.
Oh, I know. I never really bother running. I mean, I run the basics in my head, but like I've never taken to pen and paper or whatever and just been like, is this going to be there? It's like, yeah, whatever. I'll just roll with it.
But then you lose.
Yeah.
That's the one. It's the one case. It's like I need a toggle to be like, just this one time. Just tell me what this calculates out to.
I don't know if there's been many occasions where I've just lost. Right, like if I lose, I lose hard.
Sure.
Because the hand that I need just hasn't come up. Right, and that's my deck hasn't quite been. If the deck isn't necessarily evolved to an efficient enough state where it's been happening well enough so far, but then you get that one crappy round, and it's like, none of this goes with my flow. None of this goes with my plan. I'm boned, and that's usually what happens to me anyway. I end up with a bad set of hands, and it's just like, or a bad deal, and it's like, yep, nope, can't win that one. Nothing I can do to get out of there. And usually miles off the target, not a little bit off the target, usually miles.
I mean, it's sometimes it's about failure, but sometimes it's that early game problem again, where every minor thing counts. Whereas, like, if I can win this in one hand instead of two, I'll make a whole extra buck.
Yeah, that $1. There's definitely been moments where I'm playing on controller most of the time. There's definitely been the odd moment where I've had a brain fart and pressed the discard button instead of the play button. It's like, no, what am I doing? No. Mistake.
Like maybe they should have been like at the top and bottom of the screen instead of left and right of the screen. Maybe that would make it more obvious.
It's just X and Y on a controller. So
I guess that would make it easier to fumble.
There's definitely been moments where there's on the controller, like left bumper is usually sell, except for when it's in the shop.
Oh, and it's buy and use.
It's buy and use.
Right.
And there's definitely moments where I've highlighted a card in my consumable and pushed left bumper thinking it's used, and it's like, oh no, I've sold it, no!
Oh no.
I didn't want to do that.
Oh, and there was one other thing which it's technically not tutorialized, which I think is a mistake or a problem. Well, a mistake technically in the tutorialization, because it does. It technically tutorializes it, but not in the correct way, because it tells you that jokers trigger left or right, obviously,
sure,
and that's important for building the multiplier. But what it forgets to tell you is that your hand also triggers left or right, and you can rearrange the cards on your hand.
Yeah, and that's pretty important.
Yeah.
or can be important if you're like rocking polychromes or cards that trigger jokers
Yes.
Late. Like you might want your molt to go up first.
And then trigger the multiplier on the multiplier.
Yeah, because it was the last card in your hand or something. Like move your face cards to the right, for instance.
Yes, they did kind of forget to tell you that specific rearrangement.
Well, I mean, it's not perfect at describing the sequence of events anyway. Like when certain hand actions triggers and when certain hand actions trigger in relation to Joker triggers can sometimes be quite confusing.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember them now, but there's definitely some nuance to that sometimes where I'm a little bit confused, a little bit surprised, and I'm like, oh, hey, why did that kick in then? Yeah, because it's normally your hand.
Yes.
Joker actions triggered directly by your hand. Then hand actions, like if you've got like steals or things that are in your hand that you haven't played that have an action.
Yeah.
Then Joker actions.
And then the Jokers can also re-trigger the hand cards.
Yeah. So I think that's generally the order, but there's definitely some moments where it's confusing.
Yes. It's almost like you need the Magic the Gathering stack or whatever and just have it tell you specifically what's going to happen in what order.
That would be quite useful if there was just a big old, like a history list of like why it played out like that.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily.
Cool.
No, it'd be nice if it had it. Like it'd be, but that would be really neat. But it doesn't as it stands.
So anyway, that's for that show.
Pretty great.
Yep.
Needs more than one song.
Does it though? Just like casual background music that you just zone out.
Yeah, I mean, it's been. I know I complained about it the first time we talked about it a little bit, but it's continued to be that same level of annoying. It hasn't got any worse, right? If that makes sense. Like
Sure.
I haven't put anything else on, and I've always left the music on still. Yeah. So it's.
So I also played. I guess this is maybe we should have saved this one for last, but I want to talk about it now. But like we played for a video, and I played on my own that HASTE Broken Worlds demo.
Mm-hmm. Video coming next week.
Yep, video's up soon-ish. And yeah, like I forced us to make a video about it because I was like, Rob needs to play this because it's basically like what Sonic could have been.
Yeah, what Sonic 06's speed section.
Yeah, specifically that bit of Sonic 06's max speed thing.
Oh, hey, news. Did you see they recompiled Sonic Unleashed for PC?
Yes, they did.
That was what that whole. I think we were talking about that off air. Like, why am I suddenly getting a load of Unleashed videos on my YouTube feed? Right. It's like, oh yeah, because they did a recompilation of the Xbox 360 exclusive Sonic Unleashed.
Who's they? Fans?
Fans, yeah, not Sega. Yeah. But yeah, so there's now a PC native version of Sonic Unleashed you can play.
I think they're actually trying to do that to 06 as well, as ridiculous as that is.
I mean, sure. I mean, yeah, okay, it's locked to consoles, fine, go do what you need to do. But also, it's Sonic 06, man.
Well, it will probably load faster on PCs.
Yes. Oh man, can you imagine a fan project to fix that thing? What would they do to it? Remove the human.
Well, that would probably help.
Put Amy in there instead.
Or just all the humans just put in generic Mobian models.
Oh yeah, nick them from Sonic Forces.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
the random generator. Anyway, yeah, we played that HASTE Broken Worlds demo, and it shows you what Sonic could possibly have been, and it's just like, I think that game is. I mean, we talked about it a lot in the video. And I feel like in some ways we were maybe too harsh in that video, but like we had ideas basically, which is fine for when it's a demo and it's like a work in progress. And like some of the things we say are like, they're probably going to do this because this is just like an unfinished project.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Like the UI problems and like the feedback problems we were saying about how it doesn't really tell you what's going on as well as it could.
I think the reason we may come across as a bit critical in that video is because it's presenting itself as a demo, not necessarily as a alpha or an early access.
Sure, as much as all those words mean anything at this point.
And there's that bit of text in the demo that says it's like
coming soon.
It's sooner than you think. Yeah. And it's like, okay. Is this a little bit later in their incubation cycle than perhaps we think it should be?
But yeah, I mean, I think that game is. I think I'd be fine with that game even as it is, assuming the price is low enough. Like, It'd be fine as like
a mean, but yeah,
£10 like little mini roguelike thing.
Sure, yeah.
Even as it stands, but I think it has the potential to do more. It's just a question of how much more they will actually do. Because as we were looking at the store page afterwards, because there's where it has screenshots, because there's clearly going to be different environments, but in all the screenshots they have at the moment, the like level geometry environment is different, but all the assets in there are the same, like the same obstacles.
Okay,
and it's like is that how that's going to be, or is that just because they haven't actually finished making those other assets yet, and they're just reusing that for now?
Yeah, I mean, you'll get all this from the video, but for those listening, when you don't want to use their eyes,
yep.
Yeah, it's like the Sonic 06 speed sections. You're running very fast. You're trying to outrun Doom.
Yep.
Literal Doom of some kind behind you, but you gain momentum by making sure you land on downward slopes. And that increases your speed and gains you a little bit of energy on your boost bar. Whereas there's no jump. You don't control the jump yourself, but you can fall faster if you want. So that's the trick, right? You're managing your height and trying to catch ramps to catch air. And it's a neat idea, and I think the flow can work.
Yeah.
It needs to somehow. Yeah, there is an inherent joy in making it through a tiny gap.
Yes,
right. There is that is a fun thing to do in video games. I can't believe I didn't really think of it at the time, but like a little bit after we recorded that video, I was going, "Oh yeah, man, Excite Truck, taking the middle route and zinging those trees, man." That was well satisfying.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully it will potentially play into that more, because like in its roguelike thing, it does have a few upgrades that react to close calls, and the UI calls out close calls, like it's burnout or whatever. But like, I feel like that should almost be a base mechanic,
right? Yeah, there should be something to zinging.
Yeah, just maybe that could give you a tiny amount of boost as well.
Dodge concept.
Yep, it's all about staying close but not hitting. That's dodge concept.
You have to check out our collision software videos on Happy Salad's YouTube channel to see what we're talking about there.
And then the other thing I played, just to finish this off fairly quickly, is No Man's Sky. I finally got round to going into the World's Part 2 thing.
Cool. Yeah, so what's going on?
Well, it was weird, because this time I immediately went into the expedition, and I loaded the expedition from my main save, which didn't actually make that much difference. Because so the way I did it before, when you start the expedition from the main menu, and it's like starting a new save file, except you're just in the expedition, so you're starting with nothing, basically.
Right, yeah.
When you start it from an existing save file, it is still basically starting from nothing until you can get to the anomaly, and then you can, like, when you're starting the expedition, you can send stuff from your main save through the anomaly into there. So even if you've done that, when you start an expedition from a main save, you still start with nothing, but if you get to the anomaly, then you can get that stuff that you sent through. So you still kind of have to do the, like, first finding your ship, repairing the launch thrusters, taking off from the planet thing that the game always does at the start.
Right, yeah.
But then even when when I was starting this expedition, I was like, what would even be worthwhile to send? I couldn't even think of anything. I just sent some oxygen. I just won't have to pick up any oxygen plants, I guess. Because there wasn't really anything that I could think of that would be super worthwhile. You can also...
Like a mod or like...
Well, yeah, like I was thinking, I could package up some shield mods or whatever, or environment mods, and send those through.
Would it help to get, like, technology for your backpack or something?
Well,
like,
kind of.
A refiner?
I think that does kind of depend on the expedition, because it's not... You don't technically always start from nothing. Like like this expedition in particular, you do start with some exosuit equipment already in you.
Okay. In you.
Mainly to make it more survivable, because you start on one of the new planets.
Not really get an exosuit if it's in you.
But yeah, so I couldn't really think of anything to say. I believe you can also clone your multi-tool and your ship into the expedition save. Because I mentioned before, you can clone the things you when you end the expedition, you can take a ship and a multi-tool out, but I think at the start you can also send a ship and a multi-tool in, which I didn't actually do because I feel like I kind of half forgot, but I was also like, that maybe does affect the balance a lot more, especially if it's your multi-tool and all of the stuff attached to it. Like a fully equipped multi-tool would completely change everything about that. But yeah, I did the expedition, and it's weird because they start you on a gas giant, and they call it a gas giant, but it's not a gas giant, it still has terrain.
Right.
All it really means is a planet which is larger than usual and has a lot of atmosphere for you to fly through until you actually reach space.
Okay.
And not even that much more, it's only like twice as much. But it still totally has just regular ass terrain.
It ground.
It doesn't have like plants or anything, I guess, but it could, because it's not like No Man's Sky has a problem with putting creatures and plants in all kinds of fucked up environments. It's not even that much more like hot or anything. It's still only just like a regular extreme environment planet. It just has lightning tornadoes, I guess. I did actually manage to die immediately because a tornado picked me up and I couldn't escape it. And then it eventually just slammed me into some drain and I died.
Okay, great.
It's like, how are you meant to get out of this?
I assume those are new. I haven't seen those.
Yes, they are. And that's not even specific to like the gas giants either. They've basically added special weather events into each biome. So it's like the lightning tornadoes, I think, are only for the gas giants. But if you're on like a toxic planet, you just get like a random toxic spore cloud that casually trundles past and just can do extra toxic damage on you if you stand in it, or a radiation beam.
Maybe this is something like, I guess we could have done it at any time, but like on my new PC, when that eventually comes, I could run No Man's Sky and then it ran okay on this machine, but I could never get over the fact that it just ran so much better on the Series X.
Sure, you can see if it manages to catch up on the new machine.
So maybe we can do some co-op. I was like, well, maybe you can actually take me through actually doing some stuff that I've...
Learn how to do some things.
Yeah, I should, after God knows how many hours I put into this game, it's like, I still don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. But yeah, I ran through the rest of the expedition, which you start on that gas giant. It does slightly later send you to one of the new water planets, which is just like the ocean is extra deep or whatever. Which is kind of...
It's the ocean. That's another thing. Not ever dealt with.
Well, you used to get some planets that had quite a lot of water, and you could occasionally find ones that were relatively deep, but obviously this new ocean is especially extra deep, and it has a bunch of new extra plants and animals and stuff related to that.
Dave the Diver crossover.
Yeah.
Open a restaurant.
And it gives you a chance to actually have a purpose to use the submarine. The exocraft submarine, where it's like there's hardly enough water to use that in the base game planets, but now there is. Now there's an actual reason. And they also updated the handling on the submarine so it drives better, which was definitely needed. So I did that, and then you end up, I think it sends you back to another gas giant at the end. But although I think there's also another type of special planet that it doesn't necessarily send you to, which is meant to be just like an extra large but still terrestrial planet. Not that the gas giants aren't just a terrestrial planet also.
Sure.
But I don't think I saw one of them in the course of this expedition. But the weird thing about it is that, so the way they've done this in Worlds Part 2 to add these new types of planets is they've added a new type of star, the purple stars, which means you need a new warp drive to get to them. So there's no like overlap between those. I believe they said...
Right, so what, the purple stuff only turns up in the expedition?
Although I believe... Well, not in the expeditions, in the purple star systems. You only get the gas giants in the purple star systems.
Right.
Although I believe they did say that some of the new terrain generation that is used for these new planets can appear in old star systems if that planet has never been generated before.
If no one's been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes some sense. Yeah.
But so that's how it's separated into these purple star systems. But the weird thing about that is like you finish the expedition and then all the purple star systems aren't there any longer because you actually have to unlock them in the actual main save.
Oh.
Because it's actually a storyline. And even more than that, it's actually a storyline you can only do after finishing both of the main quest storylines of the whole game.
Right, so apparently I've got to do that then.
I mean,
I haven't finished either of them, I don't think. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I've finished any of them. Like,
I think last time we talked about it, you were close to finishing at least one of them.
Yeah, maybe.
But
maybe not getting to the middle.
It is weird because the purple stars literally don't even appear on the map until you finish that extra quest. Like they're just invisible, because that's kind of the whole thing about this extra storyline is like you discover there's like a secret fourth race which are like the Korvax, except they're like individuals instead of a collective like the Korvax is.
Okay.
And they're robots as well, but they're like robots made of scrap parts, and they're like some leftover of the when Korvax Prime blew up or whatever it did, and they got separated into a separate universe. Except you could
if it ever really
well,
did.
yes, but it sort of implies that you're basically it's like this other race and all these purple star systems are basically like data that got deleted but never got overwritten. So you're like restoring the data into the simulation.
Huh. Spoilers, I suppose.
But yes. But yeah, once you get through all that and you can unlock the purple star systems, then you can get into those and see and actually have the new stuff in a real save. And of course, if you finish the expedition, you also get the fancy special living ship bonus, which isn't really related to the expedition in any way. It's just like, you can just have this. Because in the text description of the expedition, it's like, it's this special living ship that was dredged up from the depths of an ocean planet. And even when you go to the ocean planet, it doesn't happen. It's just you end the expedition. It's like, here, have a ship.
Fine.
That's not actually related to the storyline in any way. And it is, a kind of cool looking living ship. It's blue, which is not the colour of the usual living ships. But of course, the trouble with all of the special ships and like multi-tools and staffs and weird customization options you get through the expeditions is they're not cool because everyone has them.
Right.
I'd rather fly my actual living ship, the one that's randomly generated that I got through doing the living ship quest.
Yeah, something that's a little unique. It's a little problem with I think Destiny runs into the same problem, right? It's like here comes a new expansion, here comes the new exotic loot.
Yeah, that everyone's gonna have.
We want you to have a story about your gun.
Yes, except that story is the exact same as everyone else.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess I'm not actually finished. I think I've got to the point where I can warp to the purple star system. Well, I can warp to one specific purple star system that has been revealed, and then presumably when I warp there, that'll finish that off, and then all the other ones will appear. But yeah, there's not really anything new from those. I mean, you get the purple star resource, and that unlocks a couple of extra crafting things. Weirdly,
presumably there's a new purple. A purple thing to power your drive, right? Oh.
Well, no, because you make the purple star system. Well, obviously you'd have to make it with the previous one. So theoretically, to make the purple drive, you'd use the blue material from the blue stars,
I guess.
But in this case,
and maybe red material.
In this case, you're using the purple crystal stuff from the corrupted sentinels.
Okay.
So you have to go to one of those corrupted sentinel planets and a whole bunch of stuff related to that. That's actually the purple star systems leaking through in some way, or whatever. But yeah, there's not really super much new stuff that you get from it. One of the weirdest things that you can get is an exosuit upgrade that lets you summon your exocrafts from anywhere.
Nice.
Which you think, that sounds like it's a severe upgrade, but you can kind of already do that with your freighter. You can. Oh, right. One of the freighter upgrades.
That other thing I couldn't figure out how to get.
One of the freighter upgrades is the exocraft teleporter on the freighter. So providing your freighter is in the same star system as you, then you can access any of your exocrafts then. But then I guess this exosuit upgrade means you don't even have to do that.
No.
It's just literally attached to you.
Somehow. PIM particles. You got tiny ones on you.
Yeah. That would be cooler than just randomly appearing.
Just Pokeball one out. Oh, wait, patent.
Yep, can't do that.
Damn.
But yeah, there are a few other, and I guess they did finally do the thing that I always say they should do and go back and do some slight improvements to things that already exist. Where it's the UI in certain things you do has got better. It's not quite such a pain in the ass. There's can't remember which specific. The trouble is, again, because I haven't played for a while, I'm not entirely sure what any of this is from this patch. But I'm pretty sure I read the patch notes, and there's some things where it's just I forgot the one major thing that I guess is. I guess it's not really a UI fix, but now you can store extra ships and multi-tools beyond the capacity of your normal. Because normally you can store, I think it's 12 ships because they can be part.
Store multi-tools?
Yeah, well, you can have up to 6 multi-tools that you can switch between.
Huh.
You can just hold them. But now now in your base.
I only thought you could ever have the one.
No, you could have 3. You could have 6, basically. Huh. And there's also a thing that so you can have 6 and you can have 12 ships, and then on the space station you can disassemble ships into parts for just money, basically. So that's how you can clear slots and still make a profit, rather than just abandoning them when you get a new ship, just swapping it directly. And then multi-tools is the same thing. If you fill out your 6 slots, when you can get a new multi-tool, it's just a direct trade, or you can go to the anomaly and then there's a station up there where you can disassemble multi-tools into parts for money. So that's how it used to work. But now on your freighter, you can store, I forget how many, but it's like another 20 or so ships. You can store them in the deep storage of the freighter, so they're no longer accessible to you until you pull them back out of that storage. So like when you're summoning a ship in that quick menu, you can summon all of the ships that are active.
Right. Okay. So you have to go. You mean you have to go to your freighter and do some?
Yes, you have
do
to
some menu
move
manipulation.
it in or out of the.
Move it out of the inventory.
And then there's the equivalent of that for the multi-tools is like you can build a weapon rack in your base, and then you can store an extra few multi-tools in there that aren't in your active slots of multi-tools.
But then you got to go to your base.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's not any different to going to your freighter.
Well, slightly more inconvenient.
Depends how you've built things, I guess. Actually, I don't know if you can build the weapon rack on the freighter. You might be able to, because that just counts as a base.
Just put it in the back room.
Yeah.
The default back room. Anyway.
I mean, my freighter's got all kinds of shit on it. Well, not that much shit. Well, it's got all the fleet command terminals, obviously. Yeah. Need those. I've got an upstairs room where I grow drugs.
You build an upstairs?
Yes. Multiple layers if you want.
What?
But that's my drug room. It's where I grow the drugs. Because, I mean, it took me a long time to actually get that recipe, the ability to grow the geknip.
Right, okay.
Because that's actually a plant you can grow, but it's illegal. But the thing is, I just grow it on my freighter, and because I never warp with my freighter, I'm not going to ever get caught for that being smuggled.
Why would you ever do that? Why would you ever warp the freighter?
Well, because the freighter can have a much longer warp drive distance than the ships.
Oh, I see.
If you just want to travel really far, really fast. But yeah, that's where I grow all the drugs, and then I can just sell them immediately through the trade terminal in the ship, and because that's contributing to the milestone for smuggling contraband, even though I'm literally not moving it at all, I'm just selling it wherever it is.
The thing is, like, again, I'm running into the same problem that I always have every time you talk about No Man's Sky. It feels like there was this some sort of economy hurdle that I just couldn't get over.
Yes, it does seem like it.
Because I don't know that any of this I could, like, warping the freighter just always seemed like you look at the cost of it, and it's just like, why would I do that?
I mean, it's still only warp fuel technically.
Yeah, but like I'd have to make the warp fuel and get the resources to do that.
I did actually buy it after. I think last time I talked about it on the podcast a long time ago. I was like, I finally got an S-class freighter after all that time.
Yeah, you did talk about that.
But I got rid of that.
Oh.
I found an A-class one which had way more slots. And I was just like, oh, well.
That's the important bit.
I'm going to lose like one overcharge slot versus S-class, but all those extra slots that I would otherwise have to get cargo expansions for really slowly over time. Although I think I finally got to the point where my rank with... Because you can rank up with the explorers, mercenaries, and merchant guilds by doing the little mini missions and by donating stuff to the guild representatives in the stations. And I think on one of those, once you get to maximum rank, they just give you cargo bulkheads for free.
Oh. Huh.
One per station, like the exosuit upgrades.
Yeah, okay. That's still pretty neat.
But yeah, when you actual rewards for doing that grind.
Yeah, okay.
I think one of the other ones gives you multi-tool expansion slots. So same thing, but for the multi-tool.
Kind of neat.
Yeah.
Is that? Do you reckon those would double up based on, like, if you went back there in a different freighter,
Well, no, because it's like the exosuit upgrades. It's like the shop
but
remembers that you've been there.
Yeah, but the exosuit's on you the whole time. So if you got rid of your freighter, then it's like,
no,
I've got a different freighter now. It's like, I haven't got your upgrades anymore. Can I have them again?
I think that probably does just remember it in the same way as the exosuits.
That's a shame.
I still, after all this time, still haven't fully upgraded my exosuit. I'm on like the last line of cargo space, but it's so fucking huge. It's like unnecessarily huge. I've got more space than I even need. And you actually have to scroll to see it, unless you expand it to full view, which is kind of a UI problem. But yeah, that's No Man's Sky. Finally
Hammer space.
Finally went back to that. Nearly got that Purple Star stuff done, finished that off, and then I'll probably stop again. Unless Rob wants to play, in which case I'll come and help out.
Maybe. I might, as I say, I might just want to see how it looks on my on Tundra.
And I think probably that exposition might still be running by the time your new PC arrives. I think it's got like 2 or 3 weeks left until that one stops.
Okay, that doesn't seem like very long. How long did the expedition take?
I think they're like 6 weeks. Oh, not the way you say
6 weeks.
They last for 6 weeks. They take, well, I mean, I did it within 1 day, essentially. So, for me, that's quite a lot of time. But
that's quite a lot of time, yeah.
Not that long.
That's like 2/3 of a Yakuza 6 playthrough.
It's like playing the start of the game and then maybe, well, technically it only takes 5 warps if you're only doing direct to the next system that you're meant to go to. So I guess that's kind of the minimum. And that this expedition didn't require nearly as much grinding as the Helldivers styled expedition where you had to kill a bunch of enemies.
Right.
This one was much more about go to the place and look at the thing. The one thing that I did have a problem with was finding a place where the ocean of the ocean planet was deep enough to advance the story. Because it's like, get to 1,000 units under the surface of the ocean. And somehow I just couldn't find a single place on this ocean planet where it's actually that deep for ages.
Couldn't find a trench.
Yeah. So yeah, that's No Man's Sky. And that's all. That's it. I mean, that's not technically all I played, but there's nothing else I need to talk about this time, I don't think.
I played Sega Race TV.
Okay.
What the heck is that?
It's an arcade machine.
Of course it is.
It's a slightly odd arcade game. It's all right. It's no Daytona.
Nothing's an actual Daytona.
It's quite mad. It's got boost strips and a boost button.
Both?
Yeah. It's got both.
I mean, I guess that's just F-Zero.
And you're in real cars. So you could be driving a Mustang if you want. Which
means they don't blow off or anything when they crash.
I mean, they get a bit of damage.
Ooh, risky.
Yeah. They got a damage license.
Yeah.
It's a strange game. It's like presented as a TV racing show, so all the levels look like they're built out of scaffolding.
No.
It's quite odd. I shout out to Video Game Esoterica that reminded me about that. It's a YouTube channel, and it's just like, oh yeah, I have seen that in the wild, like decades ago when this thing came out. It was a bit of a pain to get running, but you can run it on Technoparrot, so there you go. You can run it on your PC.
Good to know.
Yeah, it's all right. Maybe it'd be more fun if you played it on an actual wheel rather than a controller.
Probably.
It's got a weird password system in an arcade racing game. Like, so if you manage to get through the single player of it, you unlock a customization for the car, like that you drove. Like it'll be a new paint job or something. I don't know if it changes the stats or anything. And it seems like it may, because you can pick a driver as well. And I think that customization might be different depending on which driver you drove.
Right.
You got to drive it. Yeah, whatever. So it gives you a password at the end of it. And it's like, yeah, type this password back in if you want this customized car. It's weird.
I mean, it's not a
magnetic card.
Yeah, it's not a credit card.
Yeah. Although it does seem to crash, like the Technoparrot emulation or whatever it is, does seem to crash every time you get to that point.
No.
So it's like, I finished. Yes, I got a password. Game crashes.
It just doesn't know how to reset from there.
Yeah, I guess.
Is that a podcast?
Yeah, I guess so. Unless you want to say anything real fast about what you played.
Time now.
Have you been playing anything though? Anything at all?
No, not in the past. I've been working on this thing instead. But maybe now it's nearly done. I'll get to play some games. Play some more Red Dead 2.
Woo!
Oh, yeah. And some more Tetris, probably.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining us. We have a YouTube channel where we have some videos coming up. The HASTE video previously mentioned.
But mostly Star Fox.
But mostly Star Fox. We'll be back with our regularly scheduled Star Fox programming after that. So check that out on YouTube, Happy Salad. And we'll be back here with another Saladcast in a couple of weeks. So we'll catch you then.
New season, new intro. Come back for it.
Yeah, come back for the next season.
Season 15 is so over.
Yeah, time for 16.
It's so a minute ago.
Bye.